Welcome, misfits, to tonight's episode of Call Me Skeptical. Tonight we are asking the question, divine hide and seek? And we are opening up the internet phone lines to see if someone can help us understand divine hiddenness. So come join James W. and myself, Amy Newman, as we play hide and seek with a deity. Woo-hoo! That's right, everyone. Thank you for joining out there on the intertubes. If you have recently got vaccinated or your booster shot, now is the time to activate your 5G. Boop, 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 boop. Thank you, science. Conspiracy for everything. If you're feeling fancy, don't forget to like, follow, or subscribe. Send in hearts, and then hit that bell icon because that's actually how you get reminders to join our live streams.
When it works.
When it works. I know. Sometimes it's good at giving the 20, 30-minute updates. Other times it's like, there was a stream? But we're sending love to YouTube programmers.
Once in a while, our streams don't start exactly on time.
What?
That's the rumor.
You
want to tell them where the complaint department is?
That's right. The complaint department is right down there, ladies and gentlemen. That is what we learned from God. Though there was no down there. He just kind of, well, I was thinking that's more heaven, but sure. No. But yes, you can hit that bell icon, and not only that, you can join us because we are a skeptic channel, including the two schmucks that you see before you.
Even our cats are skeptical.
Even our cats. The cats are like, listen, I need evidence before you
got any evidence?
This catnip or the flying fish in the sky. I know. We're just going to be looking for a little bit of empirical evidence tonight, or a little bit of any type of evidence. If you have other types of evidences, I'm open.
I'm open. Logic or reason or reasonable arguments, anything.
Sometimes, James, you got to just get some really cute matching premises and a conclusion so you can just syllogism all over the place.
Presuppose the answer that you want and then justify it by just saying it's justified. Okay.
And there's nothing wrong with philosophy. Once again, we need to think deeply just to create hypotheticals and to create hypotheses. But then you actually need to, I think the expression is, frig around and find out.
Yeah. Put it to the test. Bring it into the real world.
The test. Real world, baby. Right here, right now. But we're looking for views that don't agree with our own. So if you fit the bill, then the link to join the show will be soon heading into chat. Now, we also love people who agree with us. Atheists, skeptics, and science-minded people. So feel free to call, or rather, click in. Boop, 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 boop. Though, if you think the world is 6,000 years old, that evolution is a hoax, or that the world is flat, Well, then, OG
We'll always accept those
Willigers,
calls.
You should speak to us right away.
Got undeniable proof, absolute proof of God? Bring it on.
Bring it on, baby. That is, of course, after our opening statements. Now, tonight's housekeeping is sponsored by our Patreons, which is the way fans can support the show by heading over to our patreon.com/Amy Newman page.
Oh, yeah.
Woo-hoo! Including awesome Patreons. Like going for the head and sometimes asking, what if? K.O. Champ!
Yay! Co-champ.
Sending love, Co-champ!
Lots of love. Yay.
And also love from Oz, from the Atheist Round Table, and Tang Gang, yo!
He's going to be doing that online event all day tomorrow.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen.
All day.
Are you looking for better conversations in a better, non-believing and ally community? Well, then you better come to Better. The event that is we're like having 2 scoops of Better, the online pre-event, awesome event happening tomorrow, so go check that out so that we can get even more pumped for the live event happening in a few months.
Gizmo.
Hi, Gizmo. Cats
say hi to everybody.
Always welcome on the stream. Really, any pets. If you have a dog, if you have a gerbil, they're welcome on the stream.
Pet turkey, even. We'll accept
See
that.
if they could get more evidence. Honestly, I don't say more evidence, but we've had just as good evidence sometimes from creationists as we do the gerbils. So, but I love our theist brothers and sisters. Come on the stream, just not on my flags. Have to watch the flags. Anyway,
their aim is not known to be very good, so
hey,
guard your flags with your life.
We don't kick shame here. But also sending many hearts to Ian Davenport. Boom, 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 boom. As the skeptics level up. Ba-doo, ba-doo. And now I can't help but think of Free Guy, because that is the latest and most decent video game movie, though Sonic actually came out decent. I can't believe I could say that sentence without. I think that's the fedora tip of this day. Yeah. I do not blame you, but it turned out not terrible. And for a video game movie, that is half the battle, ladies and gentlemen. Half the battle. Anyway, when we're listening to creationist claims and OG Willigers, all of the other claims that don't have empirical backing, claims. I know. I try to be very fair. I just came from moderating. I try, I want people to, no matter who they are, to speak their mind. That being said, when it comes to actually debating, I do have, let's just say, a little bit of a skeptic bent.
Little bit,
exactly.
15 feet of skeptic.
15 feet of skeptic. I honestly, when it comes to, I've only had one flat Earth debate myself, and to me, I just gotta go Socratic all the way, because it's not about the science. If it was about the science, they'd be publishing papers. So there's something in them that just has a massive distrust for, the institutions. And I almost had, from a comedian standpoint, I understand a rebel's kind of view. But when you're just going against science, like, it's not really being... I would just want to know why. I don't get it from any level, because to me it would just have to be governments... It would mean world peace has been achieved. That's the other thing that I don't understand. It would mean that all of our enemies and allies, they're like, we are going to come together, exactly, for that round Earth. Woo!
North Korea sent one of their rockets up and saw a flat Earth. You don't think they'd send pictures of it? Yeah.
Our enemies would be using that to the strategic advantage. That would be the warfare. That would be how you do everything. So I just don't get it from the emotional, logistical standpoint, regardless of the science that clearly...
See pictures of Bill Gates and Elon Musk at the ice wall, just looking over the wall because billionaires can go anywhere.
You would think that, just get a rich flat earther. But these types of claims and more make a grumpy old cuss make us go.
Yeah.
No, I'm nice.
Has that effect?
Nice. I won't bite. I promise. I heart you all. But as we gather the entire skeptic community, including all of the, female skeptics that read the Bible and were kind of like, sell your daughter into, what is that say? And marry your rapist?
Slavery. Slavery.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Well, that escalated quickly. But we're sending love to Diana Smith.
Diana Smith, but hey, it's the good
Throw
slavery,
money.
Amy. Remember.
It's right, that James, it's the good slavery. Don't you know it's the type of slavery where you just have to trick the guy. You just have to give him a wife, and then she gets pregnant and has a child, and then after you have a happy little family, you just got to let that go. Just let that go, and you'll be fine. Of course, unless you love them, and then it's like, you could be my slave forever. It's biblical.
Yep. Let's go to the doorpost.
Put that Shaw. And they love bringing that point out. And we're even using the for Jews apologetic, because the heathens that they gathered around them, they weren't so lucky. They didn't even get the loophole, the literal loophole. Wet in your ear. Good times. But yes, sending heart to Diana Smith and also Pat Larger, as we prepare for our 4th episode of Talk Skeptic to Me, kind of like the opposite of this show, where we're looking for experts and those with experience to come tell us two schmucks what is actually going on. And we just finished our 3rd episode where Pat walked us through the archaeological view of sacredness. So go check that out.
Checked out a sacred site in Cornwall, an ancient church,
who I think is like taking a thing of the flat earth and breaking it as I hit the thing. That's how dramatic I am. And hitting it over a chair. All included sound effects, ladies and gentlemen. And sending love to Pat. And then, this is really the theme of the day, is Dale Pastel and, all the other skeptics.
Best in show. Yep.
It would be nice to have just a little bit of empirical evidence. Not a lot of bit of empirical evidence. But, he's like doing stuff in the Old Testament, the New Testament, and the Quran. So, I don't know. Those miracles seem to have dried up. They seem to have fallen and receded into the corners of luck and remittable diseases and things anyway. It's amazing. The cancer that...
Amy finding her keys.
Yes, I find keys. The cancer fighting with chemo actually went under, but then when your, stepdad had a heart attack, that, that was on the list of things to do. It's
not like God can be everywhere at all times and do everything.
Jesus,
save everybody.
James. Literally.
He could just wave a wand and cure cancer. He could. But
free will, James. Something about free will or something.
I guess he's busy making sure all the people who didn't believe in him are being tortured properly.
Have you seen what's on Netflix? Jesus, James, it's the streaming. They're doing all the crazy things. He's probably watching a lot right now. He's busy. Things to do.
I got it.
People to watch die. It's complicated.
Gay people to kill.
Gay people to kill. Burning them in forever. I want to know, does he talk with the devil? Does he have like an update report of the people that have been burning, how they're doing?
They do dialogue with him.
Because I really view it. There's either, my opinion, either Satan is working for God or not. That's really what I want to know. Is he the lackey or the rebel? Because it can't be both.
A little both. Well,
they try and sell it. I want to know how that not ties. Unless, does Satan not even know he's being a lackey? Was that part of the plan?
Probably not.
And if so, then that's still under God, right? Because that was part of God's plan to
under God,
torture,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Yahweh. Yahweh or the highway? I think I'll take the highway. I think I'll take my chances. But thank you, Yahweh. Anyway, sending so much love to Dale, and we couldn't even keep it off our tongues tonight. I can't help myself. Like I said, I love all of my theist brothers and sisters, and the debater tonight, a flat earther, was a theist, and did go into some
the Latter Day Saint
claims, because that's where my bias goes to. It's that it has nothing to do with science. It has literally, the science is just on top and accidental. The reason why they think that it is not round is because God. I wish that it was something else, but it is the only correlation I have found. And I know correlation is not causation. Nonetheless,
but it doesn't mean it's not.
Correlations are causations, exactly.
Doesn't mean it's not. It just doesn't mean it's automatic.
It's like the filling. They never want to show the filling inside. It's all the outside. It's always trying to do science, and do you really trust data? Do you really trust institutions and all this?
Government.
And it's like, we get it. People lie. Humans are humaning all the human goddamn time. Nonetheless, we still do a lot of cool shit. We are still, maybe I'm just too positive, but I like humans. We do a lot of good things. We have come a far way, and we do not have to toss thousands of years for reasons. And the reasons, if you pop them, boop, you heathens don't believe in God, and so you don't understand his creation that's flat. I'm sorry, what? What was that? I thought we were with science. Was there some
Is that like a tickle me Jesus?
It is like you don't. It's like you only find a sentence or two of them admitting it in each flat Earth debate, but I have yet to be.
Someone should make that like a
disappointed,
like an Otangelo doll where you poke him and he just says one of his keynote things. Like, actually, gravity does not act on gases, so therefore all star formation have to be only done by God, holding the stars together to make them be a star. Otherwise, how could gas hold together?
How could it? Yeah, he was dangerously flirting with flat Earth.
The flirt tonight, I had to ask myself a couple times, like, because he sounded awful like a Poe. Like, some of his things were just so ridiculous. I was like, this guy can't be serious. Like,
see, it's hard to measure, because if you're going to defend that sort of claim, you probably have that sort of personality to begin with. Totally have a beer with you, ladies and gentlemen.
It was just
no
like, this is stuff. This is even beyond like the Nathan Thompson level chicanery. It is what it is.
Just a lot of here. That's why you're not going to hear science, and it is what it is. Exactly. But we are sending love to Dave Gar, and I'm waiting for an atheist flat earther. I mean, it would probably still be a little bit on the inside, but I'm not going to say never, never, but the correlation is just so strong. And
you might find one that claims it, but I think once you dug, it probably wouldn't be a very much of an atheist.
Or are they a skeptic? I then want to know, do you believe in everything else that comes your way?
Pixies,
gnomes,
unicorn riding Bigfoots. Yeah.
Hey, but you are going to be able to tell us about it tonight, no matter what you believe. If you can defend it, that's what we're here to listen to. And also sending love to the lead hyena of the pack. Scott Duke. They're often creationists as well, I have found. So, don't know why people don't like my favorite carnivore. Dogs and cats are related. Well, they are not mortal enemies.
I mean, creationism is to biology what flat eartherism is to geography, so they're so linked. Like if you're going to just dismiss all of biology and say no, God did it, then you might as well dismiss all the other science and say nope, it's flat, I don't care what science you have, all composite images, it's not real, the earth is flat. It's about the same mentality. So
everything's CGI.
DNA, DNA. It's not true.
That's another thing that pisses me off. I know we have come so far, okay? But as someone who can pat themselves on the back about visual effects, okay? It is freaking hard to make a decent render. It takes so much computer power to make things look realistic and get decent shadows and water effects and explosions and just all these things that we are not really that good at emulating yet, but we've become a lot better. And man, if we can't even do it now, or we can do it and then in 5 years you can tell it's visual effects.
I mean,
the fact that they were doing it in the fact that we went to the moon and they have footage that amazing.
Right.
That it's real.
And even they said, like, as hard as it was to go to the moon, it would have been even harder to fake it. Like, to do it convincingly.
And that sounds like a silly statement to someone not in the visual effects community. But please, please, someone, just sit there in Maya 3D, make yourself a model, turn up all the polygons, throw a bunch of lights on that shit, and just see how long it takes you to render 10 seconds.
And do it in the 1960s.
5 minutes, okay? See how long it takes you to render 5 minutes. And then go tell me that they have been doing this consistently for dozens and dozens of years. Yeah. James Cameron would weep, okay? People have pushed this industry forward.
I mean, for God's sakes, what movie was that? Was that Attack of the Clones, where he had that, George Lucas had that water world, and it just looked so terrible. Like that.
And can I tell you?
It was blatant CGI, and it was just...
Because he moved away from special effects. And people who know me here, I'm a big fan of special effects.
Went all CGI.
They will always look real for a long time because they are real. And yes, so when you use visual effect, the shelf life of a visual effect just doesn't have that long a time. Now, nonetheless, I love visual effects. Let me not shit on the industry as much as I already have. They create the extraordinary and the impossible, okay? And so when you need those two things in your movie, you get those VFX babies. Those you ever see. My favorite thing is just looking at the Marvel credits, and they have all these different names, and then it just gets to 2D and 3D artists. And it's just like this monolith of names. You're like, okay, serious.
Even in 2005, it still did not look good at all.
Yeah.
And you try to imagine doing that 50 years prior to that? Nah.
But it's always easy for someone to just look back and say, man, it's so easy because I have this now. It's going to make me sound like grandma. You know it ain't, eh? And okay. Sending love out there and sending love
Rejos.
to Rejos. Woohoo! All right, thespian skull. Because the Bible kind of gets a little bit like, thou shalt murder everybody and thou will love it. And you're like, that sounds less elegant when you think about the stabby.
But or yes, floody.
Oh, picky, James. Everybody has a moment in their lives when they flood like everybody. Like, right? You
kill millions and millions of people.
Picky.
Because they made you mad, yeah.
Made you mad, made you sad. Got to set things right. It's what all parents do when their children anger them.
Massacre their
kill them.
All their kids, yeah.
Which is actually a common theme in this book.
Because they love them.
Because they love them. And last, but certainly not least, send love to Rachel Holland.
Rachel.
And of course, as we were talking about, always, it's the good slavery, James. You just need to think about those men and women who didn't consensually agree to be biblical slaves. Oh, slavery.
Sucks for them, right?
Yeah. They should have read the fine print. You gotta read the fine print. Of course, they probably couldn't read, but picky, James.
No. What were the literacy rates back then? Like 5%, being generous?
Which is why, I always say, it's amazing that these books were even written. We're not shitting on them and being like, oh, you stupid Jews and Christians and Muslims. How could you possibly fall for that shit? No. They absolutely, in the context, we can give them context because they actually lived back then.
It sounded reasonable at the time.
They didn't know germs exist. You can't really blame them. They had more pressing things also to matter, like trying to stay alive. But when you're munching on popcorn, cozy in sweatpants, and you have the internet at your fingertips,
and you've got Pornhub streaming on 4 or 5 different screens at one time.
Oh yeah,
for 18 hours a day.
No excuse. You should have a little bit of skepticism by now. We are merchants of doubt, which I want to make into a t-shirt.
Ministers of doubt. Please stop believing, the Journey song.
Please stop believing.
Yeah.
But yes, we want to thank all of our Patreons out there.
Our enablers.
With our mods and just viewers like you. You guys are who allow this channel to make such fun content. So thank you so very much. And before we get into callers.
Oops.
It's
that time.
It's that time. I can't help myself.
Focus, Newman.
Fucus. What does that spell, James?
Oops. Did I misspell that on live on a stream? Ooh, that's not going to go well.
Sounds like a good time.
Where's Otangelo when you need him?
I just need a role play. We miss you, Otangelo, and all you theists. Come on board. Just once again, I have to wash this stuff. As long as you're happy, though.
Don't use the guest towels for toilet paper, too.
Don't use the guest towels. Anyway, divine, hide, and seek. That seems to be the game this god is playing. After all, in the Torah, Yahweh is kicking butt and taking names. Now, he's just playing games. After all, you would think an all-powerful creator of the universe would be able to command an interaction with the normies on Earth. We are told that God is not a sky daddy, some father figure that we can observe from the clouds. However, in many passages of the Bible, God comes down in a cloud formation that would make the movie Twister blush. Plus, he micromanages like he's playing a video game, sending troops to conquer towns, pillage their stuff, and their women. What an awesome guy. It's always a good sign when your deity has a similar job description to a pirate. Though none of that matters if he would show his ass up. Not great news that the God of the Bible comes off as a flying douche. Sure, it doesn't make him more or less real. That comes from the lack of evidence. Scriptures or holy texts, first or secondhand experiences, and eyewitness testimony don't impress me much. I want some good old empirical evidence of this God coming down to say hi. If they want a personal relationship, this deity is going to have to swipe right on my profile. Because right now, he sounds more like that girlfriend our best friend had in Canada. She was sweet and perfect. The only catch was that she doesn't exist. We just need this deity to do half, or I don't know, a quarter of what's claimed by believers. Back in the day, he was shooting the shit with Adam, flooding planets, then killing firstborn Egyptian sons. I suppose all at a hard day's work of being a supervillain. Especially since time has no meaning to a god. You'd think he'd have all the time in the world to play footsie with us, take us somewhere sweet, like a woman being turned into a pillar of salt, or, I don't know, watch his firstborn son being brutally murdered. I'm not picky, but something would be nice. What it seems like, as I yell, is that this hiddenness is what we would expect from a God who does not exist. A God who is dependent on the believer, not the other way around. That's because we, as humans, created these gods. So it's of no surprise that when a non-believer brings up the question of divine hide and seek, we're left with a room of crickets. God doesn't seem to be delivering on DoorDash. He doesn't seem to be dating. Or even on Grindr. In fact, he seems to not exist at all. Thank you. And woohoo! All right.
Good night.
So how are you
America.
tonight, James? That's right. And what do you think? The universe's best hide and go seek player?
Well, if they had it as an Olympic sport, yeah, he would have to get the gold medal, silver medal, bronze medal every single time, because yeah, that's kind of his thing. And when you talk about divine hiddenness, when you talk about ways that you can cast doubt on the existence of God, or clues that we have that there's no God, this is always one of the most important ones, because it's one of the ones that the theists, the Christians in particular, they don't have very good answers for. And when you go down to the answers that they present you, they fall apart very quickly. And you know, you will hear crazy things like, well, even if God showed up to you right there, you would still not believe he exists. And which, of course, okay, do it, and then we'll see what happens. And then if people don't accept him or don't believe he exists, then you can say, hey, I revealed myself to you, but you still didn't believe me. And of course, we will hear it all the time. We do hear it from time to time from Christians in particular that, hey, God's already revealed himself to you. You're just choosing to ignore him. That's on you. But actually, no, it's on God, because he is the adult in the relationship. He is much more wiser and smarter and knowledgeable than we could ever be. So it's kind of a cop-out for him to be blaming us with our feeble minds and our feeble ability to reason. But they will tell you, well, you know, it's part of God's mercy that he hides himself, because if God wasn't hidden, then he would have to judge you people a lot more quickly for all the evil things that you're doing because of his justice. So God is merciful that he's giving you time before you have to be accountable. But that really doesn't make sense either, because if you read the Bible, the Old Testament, God gives no fucks. He's going to do what he's going to do, and he's going to do it whether you like it or not, whether you think it's fair or not. If he wants to wakes up one day and he decides he wants to flood the whole earth and kill millions of people because, I changed my mind, I don't like him anymore, he's going to do it. If he wants to, if he's having too much fun messing with the Pharaoh, and the Pharaoh would let his people go, but God's not done fucking with him, well, God will intervene and make sure that the Pharaoh does not let his people go so he can continue playing his game. God doesn't care. And what you quickly get to with this argument, like you get to with a lot of these typical Christian apologetics, is, and they hate it, but the fact that they hate it tells you that it strikes a nerve with that. And that is, you get to the mafia boss analogy. You get to, well, so what? God wants to hide himself. He's going to hide himself. What are you going to do about it? You still have to believe in him, and he will still roast your ass in hell if you don't believe in him. Like, okay, I mean, yeah, if he's a total asshole and he wants to be a mafia boss and he wants to just torture people forever because he can, because he enjoys it, then there's nothing we can do about it. All we can do is try to use the information that we have and our God-given, our evolution-given senses of logic and reason that we develop to make sense of the world that we find ourselves in. And these tools do not seem to give us any evidence of God. And like Amy pointed out, you read in the Old Testament where God is kicking butt, taking names. God is an active participant in the story. And we have God personally intervening to stymie construction on a tower that's going a little bit too tall. He doesn't want people wandering up to heaven and bothering him while he's taking a nap. Intervening to select one group of people to favor over another group of people. Intervening to sentence someone to death for picking up sticks. Intervening to nuke two cities because the people there were doing yucky things with their peepees, and it made him mad. He had to kill them all because it triggered him. To kill a fig tree for the crime of not producing figs out of season. God to kill his own high priest for tapping on a rock twice. Said, hey, next chapter, hey, remember that rock that you hit twice? Strip. I'm killing you. Give your uniform to your son. You're going to be dead in a few minutes. Or that man's own sons for presenting strange fire before the altar of God. Or for the crime of pulling out of a woman upon ejaculation. These are times where God personally intervened. He stepped out of his realm that he hides in into the real world to directly intervene for things that seem rather trivial to us. Seems kind of trivial to step in and kill a guy for pulling out of a woman when that very thing happens millions of times a day and nothing ever happens now. But we're told one time, thousands of years ago, God saw it, it pissed him off. He killed a guy for it. Doesn't make much sense to me, but actually it doesn't even really make sense to them. They have no way of rationalizing it. It doesn't make sense, but it's what their book says. And they've been told that they must accept this with faith. And I think we all have faith in certain things. You might have faith that your spouse is being faithful. You might have faith that certain things are going to happen. But I wouldn't say it's blind faith the way that we're required with religion. And it absolutely is blind faith. Anytime a theist, a Christian is telling you, I have faith, but it's not. No, it's absolutely blind faith. It's blind faith because it's not falsifiable. So most of us who have or have had spouses, you have faith in your spouse, but you start seeing strange numbers pop up on the telephone, look on the computer, you see divorce lawyers being searched up, you see money missing from your bank account. You come home and there's somebody else in bed with your wife and she says they were just taking a nap. At that point, you're going to think something's going on, or you're just going to say, well, you know what? I'm just going to have faith that everything is cool, nothing's going on here. That would be blind faith. But that's what we have to have, because any of the logical, rational objections we have to theism are, in most cases, hand-woven away with very flimsy apologetics that don't really stand up to scrutiny at all. So therefore, it's blind faith. Therefore, it's blind faith. No, I'm not talking from experience, doorknob head, thankfully. But that same thing does happen to people all the time, and it's a very Anyway, but we see God intervening. We see God taking steps. We see God doing things in the Bible. And by the way, that didn't just stop at the Bible. You can look at records from the Middle Ages where witches were still executed because people believed that witchcraft was a problem, where Catholic saints were recorded in the Middle Ages to be flying around cathedrals, literally flying, levitating around cathedrals. Does that ever happen today? No, because our standards of evidence would be much higher today. If someone told you someone was flying around inside a building Superman style, you would ask for a picture, you would ask for a video or something, and even then it still could be Chris Angel in a carefully constructed illusion, but even still, that would be better evidence than just, oh, well, somebody said it, so therefore it must be true. Ridiculous claims require a ridiculous amount of evidence, and we would expect that today, but they didn't have standards of evidence back then because there were no pictures, there was no video. All you ever had was to take people's words for it. And to sum this up, we're told that God intervened, that his people were being chased by the Pharaoh's army. Well, actually, Pharaoh was just going to let them go, but God decided he wasn't quite done fucking with Pharaoh. So he made Pharaoh send his army after his people. And then, of course, God drowned his people, or not drowned his people. He drowned the Egyptian army chasing after his people. But oddly enough, in the 1940s, when his people were being roused into trains to be taken to concentration camps, to be persecuted, and many of them were killed in these camps, God didn't show up. He didn't lift a finger to stop it. He didn't do anything to stop it. The millions of people who died, very miserable, brutal deaths in these camps, he could have solved it all. He could have prevented it, but he didn't do anything. So, and the apologetics that you get on that topic they're actually quite disgusting. And one of the ones I've heard was that, well, the Jews forgot about him. They become more secular. They're not so, just like in the Bible when God would let them be taken into captivity for a time period, but nothing like this happened in the Bible. Nothing like that happened. And you know what? Even in the Bible, his people still constantly did shit to piss him off and to make him mad. In fact, he knew when he was rescuing his people from slavery that, about a few weeks from now, I'm going to have Moses up on that mountain, and they're going to take all the gold that I told them to steal because, hey, how else would slaves have gold? So that they could make that golden calf. Oh, before you guys leave, make sure you go into your neighbor's house and steal all their gold because otherwise, hey, how would slaves have access to so much gold? But it's okay because God told them to steal it so they could make that golden calf. And then he would punish them for it. And then he would intentionally not feed them so they would complain. Then he would make them eat quail until they exploded. So God knew that they were going to do bad things to piss him off, but he never let anything like that happen in the fables. But we see in reality what happens when you rely on God's protection. Millions of people end up dying because he's not there. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so very much, James. And with that, we are going to send the link into chat.
Send it in, baby.
Get ready to start taking calls. Woo-hoo! And all right, ladies and gentlemen, the link is in chat, and I have pinned it, but I will show it up on screen.
Pin the tail on the Newman.
Would like to join us?
Oh, wait, that's not a tail.
That's right, baby.
At the commander level.
At the commander girl level.
Yeah. Which
is something that triggers them. I always find that funny. I have found now that the LGBT have mostly won the culture war. It's really them that complain. Because really, we're just chilling here, enjoying Western society. So,
You're trying to disprove their God. You're trying to make sense, show why their belief in their God is unreasonable. And they're like, yeah. Tell me about your genitalia.
What about your genitals?
Yeah. They can't get beyond that. It's
I can't join a Christian Discord without talking about it.
Your dick lives rent free in their minds.
I know. Woo-hoo. And yet we cannot get their God to come down here and
conjure a cup of water.
Yeah, we can't get the personal relationship that they are condemning us for. I'm waiting for God to have our one-on-one. Take me out to Applebee's, God. What's going on? I'll buy the first time. I'll get you an appetizer. Your choice.
And the apologetic on that is so crazy. Like, oh, they didn't have the Bible, but we have the Bible, so we don't need a one-on-one encounter. You just have to pick up the Bible and just believe what it says, and you'll know everything. Okay, so you're going to compare actual physical proof right before your eyes compared to an old book full of bullshit. Huh. Which one is going to be more convincing to you, Amy?
I don't know. I mean, it's such an old book, James, and that seems to matter for some reason. I love how that seems to be a race, like the race to the oldest book. We claimed it from the beginning of time.
We know that the older a text is, the more likely it is to be accurate and unchanged.
Exactly.
From the original, right?
That's how that works, right? When you can't get new information and then you're never allowed to change the text. That's how you know it's true, James.
Right. So, I mean, like, science really peaked out in about the Bronze Age, Iron Age. It really never got off the ground after that because, yeah, they took the liberty of writing down their science in a Bible, and that's the word of God, so it can't change. So flat Earth means what, Amy? Flat fucking Earth.
I mean,
pancake model.
That flat Earth. I always love the new thing for flat earthers, by the way, is they can't even be flat earthers. That's the new thing. It's like, well, I'm not saying it's flat, but it can't be round. Why?
It can't be.
Why? But if you think differently, time to join us on here and tell us where we all went wrong. My new favorite thing, I'm shouting out both sides of politics because with Apricot Slot, I always thought they always try to bring this up. They're always like, "You mean destroying Western civilization?" And my new favorite game is I'm always like, "All right, the religious don't like the gays. Now show me a USSR country that had support of gay marriage." Oh, so actually what you're telling me is it's the secular societies that are actually pushing forward the rights for the LGBT community? That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It turns out when you just remove all the bullshit and let people believe what they want, they don't kill their neighbors and stone them. So,
well, I mean, it's one of those things, like the LGBT thing is one of those. It's just so arbitrary that there's nothing outside of God just said so, so therefore, yeah. But there's nothing in unlike some other issues, there's nothing else to base it on, for you to say that even without God, it's still bad. No, not really. I'd love to hear an argument. We have plenty of people. We do not need billions more people. We're okay.
And I don't even like it when they're like, it's not it's yes, they're sinning, but we can't judge the sinner. No. If your God looks down on gay sex, I look down on that God. That's how that works. Is a direct.
Why, God? Because it's icky.
Yeah.
It's icky. I don't like it. Okay, don't watch it. Stop being omnipresent. Don't be in the room when they're doing it, and you'll be fine. I can't do that. I'm God. I have to be everywhere. I have to be inside the rectum.
All the time. It's just so funny. I forget which video that I was watching today, but they're like, another non-believer was like, it has to be round hole and round peg. That is exactly how it must be, or God gets very, very angry. Though he doesn't show up, which is kind of the theme of tonight's episode. And it seems like the theists, creationists, Abrahamic religious believers, because we're open to all sorts of theists. We haven't been getting many Hindus, but pantheists, deists,
Muslims,
you're all welcome.
Once in a while.
It is the desert trilogy that we attack for a reason, because they're just so prevalent and because they just are so convinced. That is what really gets me, is that I feel you could find some skepticism among pantheists and deists, at least a little bit. But the day Earth creationist,
the sixth day,
Lordy, that is really just a step up from the flat Earth. Like, I will give you, it is not the flat Earth, but man, you are on, and I know to an American, because 40% of our country is going to be like, how dare you? And it's like, no, how dare this country? I love this country. Please stop. Please stop.
Please stop
believing. The rest of the Western world is like giggling. And like,
but it's amazing how absolutely impotent this God is, and how he I mean, back in like the 1960s America, there was probably 90% would identify as Christian. Probably more than 60% of those attended church on a regular basis. And they let those lawyers on that Supreme Court just literally destroy prayer out of schools. What did they do about it? Were they able to do anything to push back on that? No, nothing. Completely impotent, despite having a large majority of the population whining and moaning about it.
And to this day, there are Americans who think we have taken prayer out of school. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be
the death knell.
If you want to pray in school,
absolutely,
no one is going to stop you, because that is a thought crime. No one can tell that you're talking to yourself, which is what we think prayer is. No offense. No one is coming for that.
Instructor led, or
what James is saying, the teacher cannot go to the front of the class and be like, all right, class, we are now going to lead in prayer. Yes. But if you're like, oh my God, I ate a sandwich and now I need to pray about it to make sure that the calories don't get there, go ahead. No one is going to stop you.
Let's have a moment of silence so I can sext on the phone.
If you want to pray before that test, that's better than actually studying, go ahead. Good luck. But you could join us on this StreamYard link right down here, ladies and gentlemen. It's so funny. We will allow you to talk. We won't mute you. We won't kick you. Come on here and say what you want to say.
Poor Nick got booted from Little PP's channel last night on StreamYard. Yeah.
None of those guys come on here. Hot. Nick is such a mensch. How are you going to kick it? Nick basically did. I've heard Nick devil's advocate and steelman theist before. So shame on you, theist community, for treating a mensch like that.
He's very fair and reasonable to the theist position.
Exactly.
He always points out, okay, I'm not saying I believe it, but this is what they would say, and puts it in like the best possible light.
And I know why. I know why he probably got kicked. Nick probably asked the question. I mean, no offense, LPP. You need to change. We all need to change stuff about ourselves. There are two things that he needs to change. Nobody's perfect. If you converted because if you were converted because of an accident or because of any reason, please give that reason as your actual answer, nothing else. And number two, no one should be berated, at least in the debate community. You know, if you ask your boss a stupid question, okay, fine. But generally speaking, in the debate community, when you're trying to inform people, there are no stupid questions. You should, when someone asks you something, you should then take it upon yourselves to be the more mature person. And this is your time to shine. When people ask you a question, you should not be berated. So those are just two things. We all have the things I would change. If you disagree with me, LPP, come on the channel. I'm not going to ban you or mute you or none of that
And
crap.
somebody called the boss one time and asked him what time it was.
But the link is in chat, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to keep on sending it. Because we're trying to nab some people.
Trying to bait a theist.
If you would like to come on, now is your time, because, you know, the theist, or at least let me paint with as small a brush as possible, the creationists that tend to stick with that fundamentalist bent just don't want to show up.
Like they're God, kind of. Well, I mean, they say do what Jesus would do. What would Jesus do? So, oh, Amy's got my, there you go, Amy. What would Jesus do? Well, he wouldn't show up. He wouldn't come back. So therefore, I guess that's what they're doing. They're being true to their faith in that regard. So I guess you got to take your hat off to them at that point. But I don't remember, can't think of the last time one of them killed a fig tree for not bearing fruit out of season. Because figs, they don't bear fruit out of season, Amy.
I know. So there seems to be a lot of troubles with fruit in the Bible, and I'm not talking the kind that I like to have fun with in gas stations. Yes, exactly.
Well, it started in Genesis, where remember when Cain brought an offering of fruit and vegetables to God, and God said, like, what the fuck you bringing me that shit for? You a fruitcake? Get that fuck out of here with that shit. And then, of course, Abel brought a lamb to slaughter, and God was like, I like that one. We're gonna kill that. We're gonna kill that lamb and spray the blood all over. Now I can forgive your sins.
The notion of scapegoating has continued. I dislike it in the Old Testament. I dislike it in the New Testament. Scapegoats are not real. You cannot kill someone.
By the way, Abel, how's it gone fucking your sister? And Abel's like, I like it because incest is good because it's the Old Testament. It's okay.
It's so much incest is Wincest or Game of Thronesy apparently back in the Bible until it's not. Until they do their shtick and repopulate, then they're like it's icky again.
Yeah, it's bad.
Just and I will say,
go ahead.
Oh no, just send it love to everybody out there. If the topic tonight is divine hide and seek, we are looking for God. We're looking to wonder why he has not been showing up.
Did he have to go
get cigarettes and then he just left?
The end is nigh, and we hear that all the time. In fact, Christians since the first century have been expecting Jesus to come back. Any day now. They've always thought that they were in the last generation because, Amy, those signs in the Bible are just so definitive that I don't know how anybody could ever miss them for today, like earthquakes in diverse places. And there will be war or maybe even just rumors about wars.
Not diverse places.
Yeah, earthquakes in diverse places here and there. There'll be kind of earthquake here, earthquake there. Go figure.
And it's so
only
funny.
Be today. Only
we get told all powerful, and not even very powerful, not even powerful. Like, can't interact in the physical world. So once again, the gerbil, if we're counting who can interact more in the physical world, the gerbil's stronger, right?
Knowing you, a gerbil's probably not the appropriate animal to be bringing up.
Oh, Lemmy Winks. Good old South Park episode.
Yeah.
But hey, Lemmy Winks is more real. At least we have a cartoon. I guess you could say
Mr. Gerson is more real.
But it's just amazing how so much of the planet believes in these concepts, and they take it dramatically seriously. This is what they believe the wisest people on the planet espouse. They when people look for wisdom, they go to their pastors and their
like Bob Larson.
imams, and why I can't even forget Rabbi. Thank you. I was blanking on rabbi. You go to your rabbi, and yet they have expertise in a book that was written and inspired by men. Now look, not hating on men. I love guys. No dissing. But the problem comes when you say it is inspired by a god, because now we need to take that fine-tooth comb and damn, that book better be good. Better make Stephen King blush and George R. Martin and all the others.
By a deity, yeah, you would expect it to get everything right 100% of the time.
You would think.
Even if it didn't make sense at the time, you would still expect it to get things right.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, we're just going to keep on shouting out to the StreamYard link.
Yeah.
We will blaspheme the entire stream if you don't come online, ladies and gentlemen.
We need like a blasphemy counter. Like, just a...
Boop, 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 boop.
Like, call Pastor Bob. Pastor Bob is...
Hello?
My son wanted to go see The Matrix. Is that bad? Should I let him go see that movie?
Lordy. That's right, ladies and gentlemen.
We don't let him see it.
Ran a stream on Is the Matrix Evil? Spoiler alert. No. And Pastor Bob Larson, is it written by the devil? Had to claim that it was indeed written by Satan. Because blah, 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 blah.
Not today, Satan.
Not today, Satan.
Speak of Satan.
Tomorrow good? And all right, we have our very first caller, because the creationists, aren't stepping up to bat. Pat
performance anxiety.
I know, Pat stepped up to the plate because he's just too... tired of you. I don't want to insult too much. You flibble dibbers. I don't know what word. But come on. I'm trying to think. You chicken. We got to go to Back to the Future. But.
Or like Super Troopers. Hell, for $10, I'll call the guy a chicken fucker.
That's right. And all right, we got, who is this back here? Oh, we got, and all right, we got Bubble. And so that is
license and registration, chicken fucker.
So we are going to move into our open mic, or onto our first caller. I'm so used to saying open mic.
Open
as
fly.
We get possibly someone who disagrees with us. And all right, Bubble, we said we would give priority to people who disagreed with us.
Hi.
We're going to send heart to Pat, who we're going to get on next. But right now, we're going to talk with you about divine hiddenness. And I should have asked, really, maybe you do, maybe you don't disagree with us, because we're asking, where's God?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Yeah, it's kind of busy too over here. Hiddenness. Well, none of us know, not even the Christians know who God is. None of us know who God is, who the creator is. We just know that there is a creator.
How do you know?
Well, You have to realize that evolution is false. This phenomena of ghosts are real, and so that can only lead to this supernatural being.
I mean, all that could be part of the natural world. It's just something we don't understand yet. But even though evolution's absolutely true and don't have any good evidence for ghosts, but no, evolution's absolutely true. It's just
absolutely
it's
false.
like this. Okay, all right, but
okay, look,
in reality,
but before we go on, how about this?
Let me address it real quick. The basis of evolution is based on the mutations, but mutations are literally errors. They're errors in the DNA genome.
Well, before we go on, I wanted to ask what your definition of evolution was.
Come again?
What is your definition of evolution?
A gain of information in the genome.
See, and the reason why I dislike that definition is it seems like like the DNA has to try to get somewhere. Like it is trying to gain something when there actually could be a loss of information.
But that's the thing. Now you're saying devolution. That's, if you want to be specific, that's devolution. That's not evolution.
It's a change to the DNA. That's it. Gaining, losing, it's a mutation. It doesn't matter.
Evolution and devolution are very specific things. When you appeal to evolution, you're appealing to the gaining of information, not the losing of information.
We would say de-evolution doesn't exist. That's why it would be different.
We lost the tail. That's not devolution. We just didn't need it anymore.
Look, you might not acknowledge devolution, but it's real. The loss of information is devolution. That is not evolution.
You're becoming more suited for your environment. So if you lose something you don't need, that's evolution.
It goes back to the definition. It's not evolution because your definition is a gain in information. But my definition of evolution is that genes randomly mutate and the environment naturally selects them.
Okay, let's say the environment started selecting for everybody to be a midget. Do you think that's good?
You say good, but let's just say that we all suddenly lived in a crammed world where that came down, where everyone now, only the shorter people survived. Sounds like a good ride for the shorter people.
But do you think that's evolution?
Or a world where food was very scarce, like the dinosaurs found themselves in after the meteor strike. So which dinosaurs lived on? The big ones died off because they would need to consume millions of calories a day to live. So in a food scarce environment, the smaller dinosaurs, which became birds, were able to get enough to eat to live, but the big ones died off. So the environment doesn't care. Evolution doesn't care. It's an unguided process.
But that's not evolution.
But why is that not evolution?
Because that is not the gaining of information. That is the loss of information. That is devolution.
So you're just defining it wrong.
Definition.
Oh, I'm being specific.
Yeah, you're just defining it wrong. So it's not going to make sense. You're not trying to make sense of it. You just want to falsify it.
No, I think you're aware of the big hole in this theory of evolution. There has never been evidence of the gaining of information. That has never, even Dawkins acknowledges there's no evidence for the gaining of information.
But you just said that was, so what you're saying is evolution is the gaining of information and there is no evidence for the gaining of it. I mean, we have lots of evidence that what do you think happens when a mutation like COVID happens?
COVID was man-made.
Man-made or not.
But see, that exactly. In fact, I get annoyed when some people, they use like dogs as an example of evolution not existing. And yet dogs are like the example we should use of evolution.
I'm glad you brought up dogs, because every single dog you think has evolved, they all have grown diseases. Every single dog has gained negative things. Like, for example, the pug.
Every
German
animal has
Shepherd.
diseases. I mean,
No,
come on.
No, I'm saying like the pugs, the German Shepherd, they all have gotten worse. All of them. Every single dog has gotten worse, not better.
Yeah, humans are becoming less fit, but that's because we're developing
Oh, sorry, you cut off.
science
I
against
would
evolution.
say diminishing returns on some traits that you can change. That being said, dogs live pretty awesome lives, and they have, because of their coexistence with us, will probably continue to exist long after we have unfortunately slaughtered many other species. So they're getting a good run. They're like on board.
Yeah, I mean, we still have chickens, even though we killed like millions of them.
Yes. Oh, and there's another. That's a fantastic example of evolution, because we have actually changed chickens to the point where we have grown their breasts so large, because that is where the industry has sent them.
That is not evolution. Just for example, growing a bigger dog for the German Shepherd has caused them bone problems. It's not healthy for the dog to be shaped that way. Same thing for the bigger breast chickens. It's not good for them to have bigger breasts. We bred them that way because the meat, not because it's good for their health.
Well, you say that it's not good for them, but they live. They pass their genes. They may not be a happy life for the chicken, who is, I wish we could treat much better. But the point isn't whether it's happy or not. You can do terrible things with science. You can do genetic experiments and all the things that we could do in Godwin's law. That is part of humans, but they were using scientific facts to do those horrible things. And so
we're just taking a natural process and trying to tinker with it for our own purposes. But
I'm saying that's not evolution. That's not evolution. What's happening there? We are selecting what traits we like.
We're doing what nature would do, but we're arbitrarily doing it instead of letting nature take its course. But nature on its own will kill billions of animals just from natural selection.
For example, do you know the bananas that we have in our kitchen
have been evolved them?
No, that is a perfect example of devolution. These bananas are infertile. Do you know how we keep growing them?
But wait, do they taste good to you?
It doesn't matter if they taste good or not, but they're infertile. Do you know why they're infertile?
Do you think why? I'll answer. Hold on, but then I want to ask her that. Why are they infertile?
They're infertile because they have devolved. We have mixed them with other bananas. Sure, they taste great and all, but they will not. Yeah.
Do you think that the banana is about to go extinct? Do you think that the banana is in danger of going extinct?
Yes, actually they are. They're worried about this disease that's gonna kill that banana, so they're coming up with.
If a disease is wiping out bananas, sure, but
it's wiping this specific banana, because you can mix it up with a different banana, try to filter out that disease.
Do you think humans wanting and liking bananas causes more bananas or less bananas to grow?
Whether it's more bananas is irrelevant. The matter of the fact that the banana is infertile, which means it has
a good deal for a banana. It means they're still spreading. It
means this banana cannot grow in the wild naturally. We have to the way we grow this banana is by cutting the tree, and we literally just split the tree, plant it again, and split the tree, plant it again. It doesn't grow naturally.
Evolution doesn't care about that. It doesn't natural, man-made. It just works.
That's the thing.
There's nobody guiding this process unless we intervene.
And we're going to do this for another minute or two, and then I want to go on to ghosts.
Okay. We didn't cut this banana and split it like that. That process, it wouldn't live. We need to there's a disease that's coming up, so we might have to replace this banana. Okay, let's go to ghosts.
And you know that 99% of the species that ever existed have gone extinct by now. So obviously that's been happening for a long, long time. There's a lot of species that no longer exist today.
Yep.
Because they died out and the survivors evolved.
And so my big thing with ghosts is I really do not get ghosts on a fundamental level, because I don't get what the ghost gets out of it. From my point of view, I have a very naturalistic view of consciousness. I think it's here because animals need to walk around and get those yummy bananas that we were just talking about. And so I struggle deeply as to what the purpose of a ghost is.
Well, clearly it was a human, and that's what we do know.
But would there be animal ghosts, or are they all only humans cause ghosts?
I heard there were like monkey ghosts and dog ghosts. I don't know. I'm not sure
Okay.
what
All right.
makes the
Fair
qualification for a ghost.
What about tree ghosts? When a tree dies, does its spirit live on?
I don't know. That'd be interesting, though.
Is there a specific way that you become a ghost?
I know suffering can play into it.
Suffering at the point of death, or
It's like they have some sort of an unfinished business kind of deal, or like some sort of they want to share the pain with others.
so according to your belief system, when somebody dies, what happens? Is it you have the option of going to the light or continuing to exist in some alternate plane, and the ghosts choose to exist in this quasi spirit realm? Help me.
Well, I don't count out reincarnation or possibly this heaven, because clearly not everybody's turning into a ghost. So you gotta ask where are they going? Are they just reincarnating, or are they going to do some sort of heaven? So I don't know if there's a heaven or hell.
Well, my next question right off of that would be, is there like a level to suffering? As in, are there like more people at Auschwitz than there is in a less genocidal place?
Yeah, I wonder that too.
Taco Bell.
I heard there are some ghosts in like some of these Holocaust places. I wouldn't know.
What about Taco Bells?
No, of course not Taco Bell. You can find it in places like prisons or like
The New Mexico State Penitentiary, where they go to ghost hunt after the riots there.
Or like somewhere. Well, mass death would do it. For example, Gettysburg is haunted for clearly good reasons. There's a lot of death there.
Yeah. Thousands of people, 20,000 people or so died there.
Yeah.
So if it's because of suffering, is suffering also the key to them going away? How does a ghost go away, or are they stuck there forever?
I don't know. They probably can move on. I just know they're ghosts. I don't know how they function.
Do they need to take energy in? What do they eat? What keeps them going? Do they just exist self-sustainingly?
I heard they do like zap away like a battery energy. Like if your phone is fully charged, it'll just like zap it away.
So that's why my battery will go from like 80% down to like 30% in like 2 minutes. Am I being haunted?
Not necessarily haunted, but
It could be.
Yeah.
It could be, yeah.
I mean, for example, like there's plenty of ghost hunters who like taking a bunch of camera equipment, like within like minutes, all their equipment, all their batteries are dead.
I mean, happens to me when I've had cell phones that are like coming up on the 3 to 4 year mark. Those batteries start getting really unreliable.
No, they're like, this is like brand new equipment. They're like, this is brand, like they say in the video, like this is brand new.
Oh,
That's
okay. Yeah. I mean, they said so.
But yeah, I mean, why would they lie about brand new equipment?
I don't know. Why do people lie about anything?
Because of the beliefs.
I have another question. Have you ever met a ghost?
I saw something. I think I saw some a different entity that was not a ghost, but yeah, did see some supernatural. I mean, I have plenty of family who's like, I'm from like South America. It's like everybody over there sees like a ghost. Like, it's kind of natural to have a supernatural experience.
So you've always talked about Ouija boards and people going to haunted houses. Is that something you have done yourself?
No, I don't touch it because I don't want to get haunted.
Oh, okay.
Well, what is it that convinced you then? Is there a pivotal moment that you were like, holy moly, now I gotta believe in ghosts?
Yeah, I saw a supernatural being, and then
Oh, now we're getting somewhere.
yeah.
I'd love to know more about that.
I mean, you want to hear some of the ghost stories? I got some.
Well, so I would hear that. I would rather know that
What
specific
convinced you?
one. What is the ghost story that convinced you that you were like, I can't possibly think any other way about this?
Well, it was my personal experience with seeing a supernatural entity. That's what convinced me.
Well,
so, walk
explain
me through that day.
Yeah.
Oh, not entirely. I mean, I saw a supernatural entity, but I still believed in evolution. And then I learned about biology, and then I stopped believing in
And
evolution.
we'll hold on one second. So,
Yeah.
what was that specific event? You said you saw a supernatural entity. What kind of supernatural entity?
Like I said, I think I talked about this before. It was a hooded robe figure that was just like walking away for like a different direction from me, and then as I woke up, and like I thought it was I thought it could have been a family member, just getting a late night snack or something. It just turns around, and then I can't see who was in the robe, so I'm not afraid. I'm just like a little bit distressed, like, oh, that's a bit creepy.
Is that the Grim Reaper that you claimed to have seen?
Yeah, because
okay.
it looked because it looked like the Grim Reaper, or like those things from the Lord of the Rings, the ones that's in the horse.
It's been a while since I saw that.
Yes, because the old kings have become
Raves or something.
Yes, with the crowns and the Nosferatu faces, they ride in the dragon. I know what you're talking about. Kinda. They're the old kings that got tainted. Going back to canon, here's my geeky side.
The Nazgul.
Yes.
There you go.
And I was like, so you saw someone in a hooded robe. Were you up to get like a glass of water, you said, or something like that? You were walking around.
No, I was woken up by this, and I thought it was just
woke you up.
No, I guess I just woke up. No.
Did they say anything?
No, they were walking away from me. No sound.
They walked away from you.
Yeah, well, they weren't walking towards me. They were just like walking towards a different direction from me. And so
continue.
I guess they felt my presence of me seeing them, so they just turned around, flicked their finger, and then I fainted. So
okay, because I was going to ask, did they go through the wall? Did they do something? But they actually snapped their finger and you fainted.
So could they choose to be visible and then choose to be invisible? I mean, how are you able to see them sometimes, but sometimes they disappear?
I'm guessing so. I mean, I'm not sure how they manifest.
They can choose to be visible and then choose to hide themselves.
I guess because there's plenty of stories of kids being able to see them, like it's there. I mean, it's hard to be
dead people.
Yeah, it's hard to be like kids at first, but then you see it yourself. You're like, okay.
Kids do see some strange things.
So you woke up, and then you were like, "Oh, snap!"
Yeah, well, first
real or supernatural entities are real.
Well, after he did the finger thing at the supernatural, the first thought it was just like some family member.
Oh, so you originally thought it was just a family member?
Yeah.
How did you settle on death? Or how did you learn death?
Well, I didn't know about death at this point yet. The caricature of death, the hooded robe. So, but that's who I closely associated with.
Did he have any like symbolic? Was there like a message, an eerie? Oh man, this is the Lord of Death.
No, it was just like, you are not my target kind of thing. Like, go back to sleep. Don't want to bother with you.
Huh.
Yeah, because my father was into like some occultic stuff. Now this is the stuff that gets real creepy. if you want to hear those stories.
Oh, do we?
Okay, this is from my brother and my sister, and they said they saw my father doing these rituals, and one of the rituals, his legs were the legs of a goat. And then, and in South America, we have many stories of these uh, goat leg or even horse leg woman.
So you're saying that your father had the legs of a goat after a ritual?
Well, this is my brother and my sister telling me the story of what they witnessed because they're older than me.
Hey, I'm just trying to make sure I get the story right. Well, that begs the question.
How much older than you are they?
I think they're like at least 10 years older than me, around there. Maybe less.
How old were they when they claimed when they saw this ritual?
I'm not sure.
Did he turn back to normal?
Oh yeah, of course, because I did see him later. He didn't have goat legs.
Did he ever bring it up to you? Did he say he had goat legs?
No, but in his last days before he did pass away, he was very religious towards Christ.
But not towards Satan, which is what you would think goat legs would do.
Yeah, so he did.
Did he ever confess or admit that he had done anything wrong like that?
Yeah, he did have he was ex-military, so he was let's say blood on my hands.
But did he ever admit to participating in any rituals or blood magic or anything like that?
I'm not sure. I just know this one story.
And so we're going to go for about another 10 minutes, and then we're going to let Pat come on. But we are sending a shout out to other theists, other believers out there. Please come on and have a good old chat. We'll give you all the time you want, just like we're giving with Bubbles here. We want to
come on, Don. We do not.
Unless you're into that sort of thing. And all right, I wanna put a bow on this. Okay, so we have ghosts. We have take me through it. There was something that then led you to evolution. How did you get interested in evolution to begin with?
Well, first, I mean, I guess started was is public school system. The public school system is just horrible. I mean, at the beginning, I bought the whole evolution thing, and then you start to realize none of it makes sense.
Was it YouTube? Was there a certain thing?
Well, partially YouTube, but I guess it's just more realizing that yes, DNA is information. It's a language, and if you were to see a tablet, let's say you went to Mars, and then you saw something akin to hieroglyphics or Babylonian chicken scratch, you would say you would acknowledge that is a language which would have to come from someone. And that's what the DNA is.
It's chemicals, right? It's chemicals. It's like water.
No, it's not.
You can explain water. It's a chemical.
It's not that they're chemicals. It's not that there's chicken scratch on the dirt. It's the sequence of the chemicals. It's the sequence of the scratches on the dirt.
Is there anything happening to those chemicals that violates the laws of physics, or is it just chemicals obeying the laws of physics, doing the only thing, in fact, that they ever can do, which is to follow physics?
What's violating the laws of physics is how they got in that sequence.
But what do you mean?
It doesn't. Okay, the thing with DNA, it doesn't matter that it's a chemical. What matters is the organization of those chemicals, which is a language.
I mean, you can describe anything in language terms, and that's just us looking at reality and trying to describe it in ways that we can understand it.
Do you acknowledge it's the language, though? Do you acknowledge that?
When you
It
say
is
language like it's constructed, no.
as in there is data. You could say things
Not a
Information.
like
language.
It's information.
yeah, my problem with using the word language is that there's no one to convey the information to, in that it's just chemical reactions doing what the physical laws tell us, but it's not like our DNA wants to be like, hey, Bob, dot, 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 ATG, ATTTG. It's just going in that order.
But I think, how did it get in that order? That's the problem.
It dictates how it reacts with the other chemicals.
No amount of chemical reactions is going to put them in that order.
But aren't you saying someone put it in that order?
Someone would have to put them in that order.
That's going to bring me to our the bow. So evolution, you don't believe. Ghosts, you do believe. What kind of God are we talking about?
I take the position, I don't know. I just know there's a creator. And it can't be aliens because they would have to face the same conundrum.
What could convince you that?
Wait, you just said it wasn't
no
aliens? That's normal. Which is funny. That's normally the cop out I got. It could be like, well, it could be aliens.
No, because he's saying it's just kicking the can down the road because they would have to start from somewhere. So eventually, yeah.
Well, I have another, just to get a good definition on the table. What do you mean when you use the word supernatural?
Well, I think supernatural is a misnomer because, like, I don't really consider ghosts supernatural, or maybe somebody put it as future science.
Well, I could understand two things. One, I like the answer I don't know. You're never going to find a skeptic, generally speaking, that is not going to accept I don't know when you don't know something. Two, I mean, sure, technology or events that we do not understand could just be significantly advanced technology. Generally speaking, if I saw stars rearrange themselves in the sky, I would go to aliens before I went to some supernatural entity, which then asks that I then have to ask you then, why aren't you on our side? Because you're saying this God isn't supernatural. He's actually just a natural that we don't understand yet.
Oh no, I acknowledge this God would have to exist above the laws of physics.
Well, there we go. Above the laws of physics. That's kind of what I was asking with supernatural.
Mm.
So what is your word for above the laws of physics?
Well, it would have to be a God. Because
So we're trying to figure out?
yeah, well, no, the thing, because this leads to the causality question. Since everything in the universe has a cause, it has to be an on-cause cause. So that on-cause cause has to come from outside the universe, which would have to be a lot above the laws of physics or the creator of the laws of physics.
Yeah, which is basically a special pleading. You're just creating something that doesn't need a cause and declaring everything else does need a cause.
Well, everything does need a cause because we do live in a cause universe.
But except you have a special thing that doesn't need a cause in your line of thinking, right? So there is something that doesn't need a cause. You're just choosing to call it God.
Well, it would have to be a God. No other thing can fit the description.
But aren't the only other consciousnesses that we've been talking about have kind of been normal people who have been ghosts and death? But we haven't actually been talking about God. He's like, he or she or them have been kind of over here.
Well, because I mean, I just know there is a God creator. I don't know who the God creator is.
Could it be many God creators? Could be.
Yeah,
5,
10? Here's a big problem. Do you know Standing for Truth?
Sure.
I've been trying to get on a debate with him because Yeah, I've been trying to get into debate with him because I do see a major flaw in his Adam and Eve story. There's a certain biological fact he doesn't want. So sorry, there was a glitch in your audio.
He's got a few flaws in his beliefs, but what was the one you were going to point out?
Oh yeah, there's a major flaw in the biological things he says, and I'm not sure if I want to spoil it. Do you want to hear it?
Absolutely. In fact, that'll be the last
if
thing
you want to share it with us.
we bring on Pat. And then if you want, Bubble, maybe stick around. And after 10 minutes of Pat, if there's no other theists, we may do a last 10 minutes and let Pat talk with you, because the creationists don't seem to want to show up. So we may do that before we roll
The
into
line's
Discord.
out, but they're not.
I know. So what was your last point? I think we're talking about standing truth.
Oh, sorry, you keep crackling. My bad. James, did you say something?
No, go. I said Amy's got it out, but nobody's biting, so the line is out.
Okay,
That's
yeah.
right, baby.
Yeah, I've been trying to get in a debate with Standing for Truth. It's just recent. This is a debate I was going to do with Nephilim Free, but I never got to do it with a modern day debate. It never happened. So I'm going to do it with Standing for Truth. And basically the argument... Oh, sorry, I keep hearing like audio glitches.
No, go ahead.
Basically, okay, so basically, since evolution is false, and what we see... Okay, you know tigers and lions, when they have babies, they have a ligons or ligers. You know those
Lions
animals?
and ligers, yes.
Yeah, those animals are...
ligers, yeah.
Yeah, all those...
They're
the
usually
reason
infertile, yes.
Yeah, infertile, exactamundo. Same thing with donkeys. Yeah, usually, but most of them
usually infertile, yeah.
Yeah, same thing with donkeys and horses, which make mules. Mules are infertile most of the time. Doesn't...
Also, do you know why that is?
Not exactly. I just know that it is.
It's because they are on the tail end of a new species, and so their DNA is just similar enough so that they can actually create offspring, but different enough so that those offspring are infertile.
Oh, okay. Now here comes the big kicker. What happens when you have interracial couples? It shows up again.
Because we're the same species, yeah.
I was gonna say,
not that
mixed
separated.
couples tend to have...
We are way closer than in the genetics that's fine.
No,
it's actually good when genetics mix.
The thing is, when you have mixed race couples, their children tend to be more infertile than non-mixed children.
I am not sure that's true, and I have heard the exact opposite. It actually tends to be better when you mix your genes. It's actually healthier. That's why purebred dogs tend to suffer.
You have
a lot
less
of
genetic conditions, right?
No,
the more mixed you are.
No, you get more diseases that way. You get
from mixing different genes.
No,
from different areas.
No, when you start mixing dogs and try to select for like a certain gene, for example,
it's healthier.
Pug. No, for example, the pug, when they try to make their tail curlier, that kind of messed up with their backbone, so they have something wrong with them. I'm not sure what's the correct technical term, but you just can look up videos of dogs, how they used to be and how they were now, and every single video.
Look up videos of wolves.
Yeah, like in every single video of those how dogs used to be, they'll keep saying like, yeah, this dog is now worse, this dog is now worse. Like, oh, well, every single dog is now worse. Okay.
Worse. Evolution doesn't work in those terms.
We may just have to have a whole call me skeptical about evolution. But okay. It has been.
Thank you, Bubble.
Not only that, I think we're gonna have a whole episode on ghosts. I feel like that has to be a whole episode on just the paranormal, because a lot of people believe in ghosts. There are non-theists that believe in ghosts.
Do you watch ghost videos? You should.
I watch ghost videos sometimes, but probably not for the same reason that people that watch ghost videos. For the same reason that I love watching Jewish and Christian channel, or Jewish and Christian Muslim channels. We just can't help it. Views
Amy's
that
unknown
disagree
lurker.
with mine, they
And,
they give me a rise. That's right, baby.
This is
I'm a
like a drug bubble.
No.
When you come on talking your ghosts and how evolution's not true, we love it.
It gives us a rise.
I gotta say, does God live rent free in your mind?
No, I actually charge him $4.50. He has to pay on time, or else I'm going to be angry. He has water damage last time that I paid for.
That's funny. All right, I'll mute myself.
But
Did you force him to wear a crotchless Speedo?
That's right, baby. Along with Gavin. Those are the two people. Him and Yahweh have to wear crotchless chaps for me.
All right, later.
But bye, Bubble. It has been fun, and we are moving into Pat. And actually, I think he's actually getting a coffee. So we're about to move into Pat. If you are a theist, a creationist, if you believe in anything, I would say not mainstream science,
ghost
now's your
spirits,
time. If you think vaccines causes chemtrails or whatever, now is your time to join us. But we are instead going to switch and get Pat Lowinger. What is up, Pat?
Hey, Pat.
We are
Hi, everybody.
talking to me skeptical. Call me skeptical. And we are asking ourselves about divine hide and seek, or rather the question about God's divine hiddenness. Hope you're doing well. And what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, this is an interesting topic. If you want to sit around, eat pretzels, and drink some beers, it really is. But it's not the concept of hiddenness. Think of all the other gods we've searched for and been unable to find. There was a time that the gods lived on various mountaintops. We climbed to those mountaintops, and that skepticism led to those gods no longer being widely worshipped. And now we have a new plethora of gods that we seem to make special pleadings for, and those gods are now still held sacred by some people today. But again, the answer is, why can't we find them? It used to be they live up there. Then we started being able to go up there, and now they're not there anymore. Now they're outside of space and time, the one place we know we can't go. So let's put them in a place we can never go, because each time that we've gone there before, we've found them. It used to be gods lived high on mountains, then we could climb mountains. Then they used to live in the clouds, then we learned to fly. Gods weren't there. They used to live in the moon and the heavens, but now we explore space, right? So now they're outside space and time. The one place that no, I haven't. I've seen aircraft. But that's where we're at. And so it's just, I think it's good to come on, be skeptical, but this is, I'm going to address a couple of Bubbles' points, and I'm very serious about this. To engage in what Bubbles is trying to do is to engage credulity, suspend rational thought and skepticism, and engage a worldview that hey, someone told me, is evidence for acceptance. Someone telling you they saw something should not be your go-to. I know we talk about, supernatural claims and things like that, levels of evidence required to either prove or disprove those things. But that's because we're smart and we're rational. Most of us, are rational members of the species. But simply, I saw something, I heard something, or someone told me something is not the best way to form your worldview, particularly when it's, hey, this small child told me they saw a ghost. Really? You mean the most impressionable and prone to, figments of their imagination? Yeah, let's believe them. Right. I mean, this is the kind of thing that it actually, I think it's good for people to see this. Yeah, there's a lot of ghost hunters out there. But, they tend to fail when an actual team of scientists come and try to recreate what they do or go along with them. Most of the ghost hunter shows have been debunked, where one or more members, after the show's off the air, comes out and says, "Yeah, it was all nonsense and we fabricated parts of it." That's the
They've
go-to.
never produced any good, reliable evidence of a ghost.
Right. Psychics and mediums fail when they're actually put to the test, despite the large followings they have. Faith healers fail when they're put to the test. James Randi is a good example.
He did that over and over again with the psychics.
Yep. Right. And so let's put this all to the test. Let's go out. Let's hunt ghosts, right? We're not going to find any. Gettysburg being haunted. It's a nice story to scare visitors who are prone to that kind of belief. But you're not going to find any ghosts at Gettysburg. It was an ancient belief, among ancient Greeks. Again, we're going to go to the area that I know and I research. Among the ancient Greeks, the idea that, why would I come back as a ghost? Why wouldn't I go on to my existence? Well, because I died in a violent state, either at war. War was okay in certain contexts. In the cases it wasn't. Women who died without having children, or because that was part of their their divine mandate. Those that were not properly buried could haunt the world because not having been properly interned presented them from not.
That was very important back then. A proper burial.
Right. This is why. It's. I guess I am in this case the devil's advocate. Oh no, I guess we have someone in the devil's advocate. No, but it's this is the issue with how do we combat this? Because I really don't know. I believe it's demonstrably. We can demonstrate that in our society, this kind of belief is ultimately problematic. Again, talking about maybe high school's the problem. Learning just enough biology to try to get you started in life, and then not understanding the deeper aspects of biology lets someone come through and go, well, I studied biology. No, you didn't. You got the most rudimentary introductory course in biology. You don't understand genetics. Right. You don't understand evolutionary biology. And you're going to say, well, it's all about information. No, it's not. It's not a language either. No, it's not. It's an information. It's a biological information system. It's not a language. I mean, this is, and then it has to evolve or it has to devolve. No, it's you're thinking in terms that you don't understand, because no evolutionary biologist is going to use the term the way you use it. Now, we colloquially use terms like evolve and devolve to mean, or something, that is something different colloquially, just like the word theory colloquially means something different than it does in science too. This is the problem with language, right? That there, we have, some people call this the higher order language versus a lower order language. This is the problem. Some technical use of language is not going to be understood by those that don't understand the technical meaning of the terms. Two biologists get together, they start using words like theory, hypothesis, evolution, they totally understand it. They understand what the term, genetic code means. You get somebody who maybe has like a very rudimentary and probably ill-formed view of those terms. They're going to go, well, they said it was just a theory. Well, you don't understand what they were talking about. You don't understand what the word hypothesis means. You understand what genetic code means.
Hate that sentence. Once you hear that sentence, that bullshit's coming next.
Yep. And so this is my major pushback. I'm in no way an expert. My degrees are dated. We're talking early 90s, right? But this is. I have a degree in microbiology and some graduate coursework in genetics. So I understand the terms. And even though I could have a pretty good conversation with someone currently working in the field at the terminal graduate level degree, their knowledge vastly outweighs my own. And for me to sit there and go, well, this is why this is, and this is why that is, when they actually go, actually, that's not going to be it, because my understanding, which is way more detailed than
20-year-old scholarship, yeah.
Right, and it's getting to be 30 now, but we won't rub my nose in it. But this is the problem: is that I worry that people don't understand. and aren't willing to take the time to learn. Go out, buy a book on Introduction to Human Evolution or, Introduction to Genetics. Read it. And when you don't understand it, don't YouTube it. Find a scholar or somebody that does it professionally, and that's their job to understand it, and ask them to explain it to you. Don't go on YouTube to learn about biology. I mean, actually, in some places, it's a good place to learn. But in other places, no, because you're going to go onto the wrong website. Someone's going to tell you, well, hey, it's a language.
Don't go to logical,
No,
plausible, probable to learn about genetics and biology.
Exactly.
And that is
Correct.
the problem I think we currently have, is that we have good information, but it's hard right now for many people to separate it from the bad information. It looks as equal value. And I think it's going to take us as a society a little bit for us almost to develop an immune system to bullshit and to really start to understand we should be using Google Scholar, not Google. And we're in a weird time. We're almost in the Wild West of the information age right now. And it's just hard to see it because we're in it.
Well, and also Google is in many ways the modern version of the until very recently traveling salesman who peddled cures. Now, it used to be time little towns in the Midwest would be waiting for the horse-drawn buggy to come to town to sell them all kinds of wonders and cures and various bullshit, right? And they waited for these people. Then that guy would go on his way and he'd go to the next town and huck his trade, or snake oil salesman and such. Now Google's that, right? They're, just in the Old West too, they were traveling doctors who were legitimate, who went town to town because that was their trade and they were actual physicians. But they were also part of a larger group of traveling physicians there were a lot of hucksters and charlatans in that group as well. And that's the same thing with Google nowadays. You can find good information on the internet. I actually recently wrote an article. Maybe I'll post it. And basically, it's the question I pose is the internet a good and reliable source for historians? And ultimately, the answer is maybe. But there's so many pitfalls, particularly for a young historian, someone starting out in academics, to fall down a rabbit hole that ultimately leads to bad scholarship. And that bad scholarship, so you get an F on a paper, big deal. But it also, if you don't learn proper research skills, ultimately you're not going to be successful in the field. So, Google's great if I'm looking up for where to buy a pizza, or Google's great if I want to, look up Amy's YouTube videos. But I want to actually get down in the nitty gritty on a very detailed subject. Even Google Scholar has its limitations. You need to be going to, academic portals like that. You can only get through if you're at a college or university. Right. Mm-hmm.
And so Pat, we're going to go for about another 5 minutes of you just being really agreeable. And then we're going to bring in the devil's advocate.
Well, I actually think I'm ready to go now. So if the devil's advocate's ready, I'm ready to go too. And I can either go backstage or just hang out and I'll be quiet.
Sure. You could feel free to do either one, Pat. It was lovely, as always, to have you on. And with that, we are going to bring in the devil's advocate.
Keanu Reeves.
Woohoo! What is
Keanu
up, the
Reeves,
devil's advocate?
in
This
honor of the Matrix.
That the link is in chat. That's right. Fourth Matrix coming out soon, I think, too.
Don't tell Bob Larson.
That's right. Don't tell Bobo. I can't believe that the funniest thing triggers them. I don't think it actually does. I swear he's probably doing that for money. Nonetheless, we are saying hello to the devil's advocate. We are calling me skeptical and asking about divine hide and seek, or rather divine hiddenness. What are your thoughts?
Hello?
Jazz
Satan?
hands.
Satan? Oh.
We may have to put the
have
devil's
another,
advocate backstage.
Devil's advocate
while
back
we
there.
wait for him. That's true. We have I was going to say Yahweh's advocate. That sounds crappy, so it probably is the devil's advocate. But the Devil's Advocate, if you would like to
send us
come back,
some in the private
say something in the private chat. We'll bring you back in because we prioritize theists on this show on Call Me Skeptical because we're trying to get views that specifically differ or disagree from our own, and that, hey, the Devil's Advocate sounds right up that alley, but we're going to put you backstage. You can tell us if you're back,
when you're ready.
And we're going to add in Randolph Richardson, the godfather of atheism. What is up, Randolph? Woo, I like that ticker down at the bottom, youtube.com/Randolph Richardson. I will always shill for the non-believer and ally community. So welcome on board, Randolph. We are talking on Calling Me Skeptical. We're asking to talk about divine hide and seek. Really high, Gizmo. Gizmo's not playing hide and seek. We're asking ourselves, where's this God? I don't see. Nothing.
Where is he, Mo? I don't know.
What are your thoughts?
Where'd he go?
From what I can tell, he's the hide and seek champion of the world.
I know, right?
If it was an Olympic sport, you would get the gold, silver, bronze.
Oh, he'd get platinum. He'd get platinum coated with diamonds.
Yes.
Diamond-studded platinum. That's what he'd get.
Amy's Golden Dildo Award.
Oh, my.
But, it always seems curious to me that if this deity is entirely capable of, completely all-powerful and all-knowing, should know how to do this, and be capable of making sure everybody knew that they exist. And that's not happening. I didn't get that memo, so I'm guessing you didn't either, both of you.
Yeah, I missed out on that one. Didn't get the flyer.
Gotta go ahead and make sure we get another copy of that memo, right?
So it's not just me who's missed the memo. Yeah, it is a curious thing. It certainly seems consistent with the idea that it's made up.
Like Bill Weiss's Trip to Hell, right? 23 minutes in hell. Did you miss that one, Randolph?
Yeah, I heard there's an escalator takes people to heaven, but it's a stairway down to hell because who wants convenience on the way down there? I suspect everybody does, but
according to Mary Baxter, who God took to hell, actually the UFOs are harvesting souls, and they fly into hell, and then they open up and all the souls fall out, like that one movie where the aliens are harvesting people to their ship.
Now you're making sense.
Except it's the UFOs delivering souls for the devil. It's maybe like Uber Eats, but for the devil.
You know, this sounds more interesting than certain old holy books. Better plot. And yes. I haven't even heard the whole plot yet.
Yeah. Uber Eats, but for the devil.
Mm-hmm.
He orders souls. The UFOs come bring him to him.
How are you two doing? You've been pretty busy?
We're doing pretty good. I had a pretty spicy flat earth debate today, so we were talking about that at the beginning. And then we've been kind of dipping in and out. I think we talked ghosts. We talked evolution. And then we had some wonderful pat on. And we're probably going to talk to you for about 5 more minutes, Randolph, and then we're going to give our priority. We're looking for theists. We're on the prowl for people who disagree with us tonight. And we got Pseudonym and Kathy back there, so 2 theists have stepped up to the plate. But I'm going to send the ball right back to you, Randolph. How you been doing?
Well, I've been working on the studio for the upcoming True North Talk program, and I hired a lady with 13 years experience to complete the roof for me. Remember, I had all the plywood laid down, so she's putting all the shingles on and waterproofing it and all this kind of thing. So probably by tomorrow, the final shingles will be on, and that the rest of that will be done, and then we'll be able to start working on the inside a lot more. The next step will be subfloor, make the whole thing level, and then build up the walls and ceiling. And
so, what do you think? Maybe another month or two, maybe.
Yeah, I'd love that to be the case. It's taken a long time because I have a lot of other things I have to take care of. I wish I was retired because it would already be done.
Well,
yeah,
life happens, you know.
Yeah, it does. But once this is going, Neil and I are really looking forward to running the show and bringing on some guests from time to time too.
That's right. Looking forward to both you and Neil because you're both two mentions.
Great guys, yeah.
I know, right?
Yeah, but I'm not sure what else you'd like me to say. This is what's been going on, and I guess if you have somebody waiting backstage, feel free to move on to them.
We lost
that sounds
Pseudonym.
good. Well, Pseudonym said that he wanted to let Kathy go first. I think that's, and then he'll join.
All right.
And so thank you so very much, Randolph. In fact, you can find Randolph at youtube.com/Randolph Richardson.
It's
right. The Godfather of Atheism.
The Godfather of Atheism. And thank you so very much.
Thanks,
With
Randolph.
that, we're going to move into our next theist, Send in Love. Woohoo! What is up,
Welcome back, Kathy.
We are calling me skeptical. Tonight we're talking about divine hide and seek, or really divine hiddenness, as in, where's this God? Floors are yours.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. No, I really like the discussion going on. I wanted to bring up a few topics if you don't mind.
Sure.
Yeah, there's the previous theist that you had on right now. I forgot the name.
Bubble?
Yeah,
Bubble.
Was it Bubble? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, he said something like, I just know there's I know there's a God creator. I just don't know who the God creator is. And, he said something along those lines. And it's very similar to what Justin Downing says. Like, he says that it took months and months and months for him to become convinced of God. And of course of Islam, I should say Allah. But he would admit that he doesn't have any direct experience of God. He would just like Bubbles said, that he doesn't know who the creator is. It's almost saying the same thing. It's like they know through kind of a logical intuition, but they don't know through kind of some direct gnosis or direct knowing. And I know I've brought up before that Amy has spoken about her heroic doses, her experiences. And I wondered, Amy, have you ever looked into the research at Johns Hopkins where they go through the 6 criteria for what they call the complete mystical experience? Have you ever read those 6 criteria?
I have not.
Just because, I was just wondering if you would, if you go through each one of them, supposedly in the study, these profound experiences that people report in the so-called complete mystical experience, in order for them to meet that criteria, they have to hit a certain amount of criteria on each 6 of those categories. And so, in order for them to be deemed to have the complete mystical experience, they have to hit all 6 simultaneously, not just 1 or 2 or 3. And I remember you mentioned the unconditional love. That is definitely one of them. That's definitely one of the criteria of the experiences, and you definitely hit that tally, that marker. There's another one that people invariably describe. Maybe you felt it too, or maybe you experienced it. It's transcendence of time and space. People invariably describe, the sensation of all past and future collapsing into the moment. I don't know if you had that one occur. But
I've had that occur, but it wasn't at the same time. I've had trips where it felt like I lived an entire another life. And when I came down from that trip, I had to process
Yes.
what felt like years had been 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's how mystics often describe it, how it feels to them. Like they just live eternity and they have to come back and attempt to try to process that as a human being. And, that's why they call it a rebirth, because it's almost like a reset on your consciousness. That a lot of people describe it like that.
Well,
That,
see, the one with the unconditional love, that to me was a rebirth in that I can't think differently. I find it sounds cheesy when I say I can't hate and that the hate
yeah,
has been drained out of me and all this metaphorical language. And yet I truly find it hard to. It really does seem like a switch was flipped. And I am
yeah,
just generally happy. I just look out when I just drive my car and I look at bridges and all this. I am generally proud at how much humans have accomplished and those sort of things. So my question to you, I like a lot of what you say, Kathy, sometimes, but I wish it could just be translated to a secular concept. Is it?
yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
I guess my question is: does it have to be a god? Does it have to be? Can't
I
we
see what you're
separate
saying.
it?
Well, I mean, Randolph Richardson was here earlier, and he said a deity shouldn't exist. I missed the memo. And whenever I hear the term deity, to me, it's like almost like a red flag, that people have a preconceived notion of God. And I think when you say does it have to be a god? I think I mentioned I talked to RJ Downer, and he had such a repugnance for the term God that he's like, "Do we have to call it God? Come on, man!" Like, you know. You see, I think it's just. I mean, understand you're atheist. There's a bias there. No term for any such divine bothers me as a perennialist. I can hear Brahman, I can hear God, I can hear Allah, and I'm unfazed. Why should we be faced by words, by sound? I think that's an annoyance that only atheists experience. And I'm not trying to be condescending. What I'm trying to say is that theists, it's very hard to ask the theist. Often I hear James always ask the theist, like, what would convince you of no God? And that's very hard for a theist to answer, because the very reality that we experience itself is embedded within God from the theist point of view. I'll give you an example. I don't know if you've ever heard Neil deGrasse Tyson use this metaphor of a sphere passing through a two-dimensional plane, like a paper. And so, like, when the sphere touches the paper, it appears as a dot. And then as it passes through, the dot turns into a circle that grows larger and larger. And so it reaches the diameter of the sphere, and then it starts shrinking and shrinking, and it becomes a dot until it disappears. And in a very similar way, our reality, you could say, astrophysicists talk about 11-dimensional hyperspace. That even Einstein, I mentioned, talked about the block universe. That the whole universe, we experience time and space in a 10th sense that's unfolding. It's not happening right now. Einstein saw it as a block, as it's all complete. From beginning to end, it's all finished. Even beyond the future right now, it's all complete inside the block. And so this analogy of the sphere passing through the paper is kind of our 3-dimensional reality is a slice through that hyperdimensional block universe. So within the theist view, we're embedded within God.
Well, what it sounds like you're saying, if I could just take the God out, is that we can only just see a small sliver of the universe.
Yes.
Reality, maybe.
Yeah, and with the mystic
I could almost come on board that, but once again, a god tends to be, doesn't always, but it tends to be a thinking agent.
I see your disagreement, but I don't think you should. You're going off, I think, by your preconceived notions. By when you say thinking agent, Because it's very hard to imagine how you would perceive yourself if you were the entire block universe. If you're all things simultaneously, there is nothing to think about. Everything's in a way already done. There's nothing to do. There's no action to take place. You are in a sense all action. It's a very different mode of consciousness, and I think that's why they call it divine hiddenness. Is because you see, if you can't always be in that state of mind, you can't always be in a state of omniscience. If you were, there would be no reason to have the discussion. You would know everything I was going to say.
Well, the thing is, we hear divine hiddenness. It's like their excuse for why we don't see God interacting. So they come up with this doctrine to explain why he chooses to look like he's not there. That's kind of how I would phrase that.
You necessarily have to be ignorant to have an experience at all. I can't know what you're going to say next. Like there would be no passion, no point to the experience.
So he could choose to willfully be ignorant, you mean?
No, what I'm saying is that if you had the nerve, you could see God right now. If you could meditate, if you could, if you took enough psychedelics, if you had a near-death experience, this could happen to you. You could see this glimpse of omniscience. But when you come back to this ordinary state of consciousness, it's so beyond words to even describe. That's the whole, that's what I think, that's how I see religion, that, these mystics throughout the ages who glimpsed this, they're in scripture, that's what you see, that's the imprint of what they're trying to describe. And I think we all have the potential to have this. And when I questioned Amy about the 6 points, I wonder to what degree Amy has this experience. I believe she had, if not a complete mystical experience, it's definitely a partial, because she hit the unconditional love marker, but there's other markers on there that I would love to have another conversation in more detail about. I know that you want to get to other people, and I don't want to take up the whole time, but
you're fine.
You're doing good. I just don't understand what this God is or why it exists. I understand, in my opinion, why we're conscious, and I hate to keep on drilling at that point, but we need to move around and we need to shove things in our face. And so
you need an ego. You need an ego, like that's Terrence McKenna once said, like the whole, the ego is there to so that we know to put. I pick up the spoon, I put this food in my mouth instead of your mouth. You need something to direct you. But I think the whole point of spirituality is completely dissolving that sense of ordinary consciousness, that sense of ego.
I mean, I am all for ego deaths, the metaphorical kind. I am all for realizing that, man, maybe I was a douche in 1 or 2 situations that I should have been a nicer person.
We've all been there.
My problem comes that once you start claiming that you're seeing something that you have access to that no one else does, or not no one, but if there is a method, like if it was these 6 things, it should be like, take this amount of psychedelics and you will see the same God every time. But what happens is that people take psychedelics and they have lots of different psychedelic experiences, some shared, some
similarities,
drastically different. Right? And so I'm not knocking your experiences or what you gained from them. What I am questioning, I want to go back to this mind thing. Is it one mind? Is it this mega mind? Is there no minds involved? And we've just been using.
Yes. Well, I mean, one another characteristic, like I said, there's 6, and another primary one is what they call unity. They call it one of the core features. Roland Griffiths often describes it as interconnectedness of all people and things, all is one pure consciousness. In non-duality, it's described as a collapse of the subject-object dichotomy. That you have this sense. I would ask you, there's this sense in ordinary consciousness that you're a subjective entity, and you have the external reality. Well, at the height of this experience, that fuses in a way that there's no distinction between the objective world and the internal. They're literally a unity or one. And I don't know if you have that breakdown.
But who's to say Amy's experience is invalid and the other experiences are the true and correct experience?
Well, the reason I mentioned it because it is part of the criteria. That's why I'm asking.
Who sets the criteria? How do they know to set criteria?
I have been trying to find this website in the offhand that we've been talking about it. I was wondering if you can find, because I'm looking at this Hopkins thing from 2006.
Yeah.
Is that what it is? Because I'm looking for like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Do you have the specific paper?
That was an initially published study. The research at Hopkins started in '99, and they published their first study in 2006. And so it took 6 years before they finally finished that study. And of course, this is not necessarily new research in the sense that it happened in '99. They've been building on decades worth of research prior to what they're doing. And, I could probably give you some links in.
Sure. We could share them. I feel bad. You're on live right now, so I don't mean to put too much pressure. But if not this time, next time, and because we can share them and go over them, and I'm all up for it. And I just want to send love out to all of the Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch streams. If you have any questions for anyone on screen, feel free to tag me at Amy Newman so that James W. and myself can see them. I'm trying to think. You go.
So when you hear me ask people what would convince them that their beliefs are wrong, where do you think I'm trying to go with that? What do you think I'm trying to figure out?
I guess if they could cognize a rational way to make atheism make sense, like a world without God. But like I said, for the theist, the very material reality itself is a slice embedded within God. And so that's why you can't really, because for a theist, if you say there is no God, then there is no reality. Right. that would be synonymous in their worldview. That's why it would make no sense at all to ask that question.
So what I'm trying to figure out is their belief falsifiable? Because if your belief is not falsifiable, then you're almost wasting time talking about it, because there's nothing we could ever do that would convince you that it's wrong, right? So if there's no way, if there's nothing we could ever present to you that would show you that maybe you're wrong or maybe you're missing something on what you believe, then there's kind of not much we can talk about, right?
Well, the term falsifiable deals with mainly empirical reality, and
that's the only reality we have access to directly is the empirical, the real.
Sure. What I'm trying to say is that in empirical reality, you deal with assessing kind of how science goes out and explores. Sure. But within this experience of the so-called mystical experience, it is something natural, but the content of the experience is what's transcendent. And that's what people have been yammering about for centuries, all these mystics and saints and theologians and so forth.
Because it means something different to everybody. There's nothing concrete to connect it with. It's just your mind and my mind. They have different ways of processing these experiences, and that's where it is. It's like if we take a hammer, if we take something, we can measure it, we can look at it, we can come to conclusions about it, because it's an actual, real, tangible object. But these mental constructs and these mental thoughts and images, they're not tangible. It's only within your mind, and that's just something that's very unreliable in terms of trying to connect that to reality, right?
Well, I mean, you're assuming that everyone's experience is unique. What I'm trying to say is that when these professionals, when they talk about these higher doses, the experience becomes universal. It's less, in other words, the higher you go in dose, the less unique the experience becomes. On the lower doses, you have people that explain very unique experiences, but on the higher doses, people are kind of describing. That's why they talk about these points, because
so if you take a high enough dose of fentanyl, you're going to be dead. That's a unique experience. The experience converges in death.
Sure.
So,
but you also
before that, you might have varying experiences. But if you take too much, you will die.
And Kathy,
go ahead.
If you can figure out, I see a few links in there. So if you can figure out one that you think maybe is the best to kind of go over, and then my real question to you is, you said you were an atheist, you had one of these experiences, and then you became a theist. So just kind of like Bubble, can you walk me through that experience? Like, first of all, was it ayahuasca? Smokable mushrooms. Okay, so
psilocybin.
Mushrooms. You were an atheist. You took
Psilocybin.
mushrooms. Walk me into the first few minutes as you're going up.
Okay, I think when you take the higher dose, or the Johns Hopkins, the heroic dose or whatever, I was influenced by Terrence McKenna. I heard about the heroic dose, and so it took a long time before me to even find some mushrooms. I think I first heard about it when I was 19. I didn't get around to it till I was about 23, and when I finally found it, I went by Terrence McKenna's advice. I took the so-called heroic dose, the 5 dried grams. I had messed with mushrooms before. But I never taken that amount. When I heard about that, I was like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? I had a very naive introduction into this, and that I just wanted to see something that wasn't there. And I wasn't interested in religion or atheism or any of this stuff, any of these topics. I found religion interesting, but at the same time, I was also skeptical. I probably would have called myself an atheist during that time, and so I kind of in a way stumbled across this, and I finally found someone that had them. The guy even told me, he's like, "Hey man, I'm getting calls from people that are saying this stuff is like really strong. I really don't recommend take all of this by yourself." And I ignored his advice, and I still took it anyway. And I think that's why I got lucky, because they were, I don't know what species they were, but they must have been a pretty strong species, because it's hard to. I've been trying to hit that same complete mystical experience since then, and I will say I've never been able to do it. Out of annually taking it, I've never gotten back to that original.
And before we go back to never going back, so give it 20 minutes. You are going up. It's starting to affect your body. What is happening?
Yeah. So I'm with my wife at the time, and let me see. I think we were married by then. Yeah. And she asked me if I wanted to have sex, and I could barely manage to kiss her, and that's when it really started to kick in. Like, I got off the bed, I went on the floor, and what ends up happening, I mean, you'll see contortions everywhere, like the walls melting, so forth. But what ends up happening, I describe it as like, when a magnet picks up like graphite, you put magnet next to graphite, and it all contorts into this pattern.
Sure.
It was almost as though the melting conformed, it all contorted into this fractal pattern, and everything became that. And there was no nothing to hang on to, as they say in Eastern philosophy. Like there was no, I couldn't see, there's no material body. Everything dissolved into this transformation, and it becomes this one thing. And that one thing that it becomes, I think everyone is trying to describe in their in their own ways, in their own experience. It sounds unique because everyone's unique. It's being filtered through their unique personality, but I think it's something that's universal inside of us. It's not something, the in other words, like the experience itself has nothing to do with your personal history. It's showing you something that universal. The content of the experience is universal in and of itself. And so when they talk about the complete mystical experience, I mean, people are describing something that's universal.
So let me just interrupt you for 1 second. So you're going up, you're having a good experience. You said you were with your girlfriend at the time?
Yeah, she was trying. I mean, she was trying to get me to kiss and have sex, but I couldn't even do that. I was like kissing her.
Those darn women's.
Yeah, I know, and I ended up like I was like, oh wait a minute, I fell to the floor. Like it was kind of like, have you ever seen that movie Face Off? With Nicolas Cage and John Travolta. They're in this Alcatraz like prison with the metal boots, and they're magnetized to the ground. Well, it felt like my entire skeleton was like magnetized to the ground,
and so you were having these contractions, these fractal like movements.
Yeah, I mean the whole vision, everything before me became this fractal mandalic pattern. There was nothing that was not that. There like that's all that existed. That's all. But this pattern, this mandalic pattern, somehow represented all things. It represented all time, everything that ever was and ever will be, all at once. That was like the experience inside there, and it's like a complete transformation. You're there for this moment, or this little, however long it feels like eternity, and then suddenly you come back. And I was kissing the ground to be back. I mean, it's not a state of mind you want to reside in. Like you don't want to be. It's like almost being dead.
And so you were having these contractions, or these things were going on. Were you still an atheist in that moment? You were still, you didn't know what was going on.
I didn't know. It took a long time. I mean, it's been years since that. I'm 35 now, so so it's been years since that experience. And where I was led, I was confused. I was like, what should I think about this? And that I started studying the major religions. I started studying Gordon Wasson, his introductory into this. He was the one that he introduced Western society to mushrooms. We wouldn't have mushrooms in the first place if it wasn't for this guy who went down to Mexico to meet with Maria Sabina, that introduced Western society to mushrooms in the first place. And he said when he tried it, they gave him 16 pairs. It's a lot of mushrooms to take.
A lot of mushrooms. And I even eat on my pizza.
Oh, well, I'm gonna interrupt to ask a question. We're gonna go for about 10 more minutes, Kathy, and then we're gonna open up to anyone else who wants to come in here. But it's been interesting, as always. Have a question from the audience of what dose and how much of psilocybin did you take?
My initial one was 5 dried grams, but I think it was a potent species because I haven't been able to match it since. And I've taken 16, as high as 16 afterwards, and I still haven't been able to match that because you can't really.
That's very interesting, though, isn't that? That you have not been able to emulate the experience.
Yeah, I think I got lucky. I think I got lucky the first time. I think the species was a very powerful species. I think it may have been cyanesins, something really strong.
Take a bunch. Just take a bunch, and you'll
you'll
get back there.
High. Like if you were gonna take a bunch, you would have to go really high, like 20 to 30 grams, to match it.
Could it be? Because I'm very.
Could it be?
I'm proud of my little ego death. And ego death really doesn't mean that your ego has been destroyed. There are always moments that you feel your ego coming in and doing stuff. I like to think it's made you more aware of your ego, if anything, and you can kind of feel when your ego is coming out and when to try and roll it back in.
It's like that sense of shame that you get when you did something bad in the past, you did something stupid, you made an ass of yourself, and you're like, I don't want to repeat that experience.
And so here's my sell to you, Kathy, is that you can have and continue to have amazing psychedelic experiences that change your consciousness as you see them forever.
Change your outlook.
And still be an atheist. That is my sell that I am giving out.
I would just have to ask Kathy, what would convince you that the experiences that you had are not mystical? It's just what happens when you put strange chemicals in your brain that alter the chemistry in the brain, and your brain is operating in that state, which is not designed to operate, but yet it's still operating. So you're experiencing things that aren't natural, but it's just your brain trying to process reality with the chemicals, and you get an experience that seems really weird and mystical, but it's just your brain doing its thing.
I would say that you're kind of in the way saying the same thing as these professionals are saying. They just need some way to label it. They just happen to call it mystical experience. It is. Yeah. I will admit it does have its connotations, but they're not talking about magic. They're really trying to pinpoint the foundation of this experience. And since my friend Craig Reed is in the room, I'll mention something a point I really wanted to make on I did on Truth Wanted is that one aspect of this experience is this transcendence of time and space, and we often attribute that to an abstract God that's outside of us. That the people think of I hate to say it, but the Sky Daddy, the entity that's
Sky
out
Daddy,
there,
the
mafia boss, the bully, the spaghetti monster, the teapot, and so forth and so on. The unicorn, so many names that you see in these atheist discussions. But the whole point, I think, is that out of the research is that it's not something to be attributed outside yourself. We anthropomorphize this outside of space and time to something outside ourselves, But what the research is saying is that this is a potential within us that we can have these transcendent experiences that we describe as outside of space and time, but they're potential.
Feels like it.
You could say it feels like it, but you see, the point is still that whether you can describe it like that, I even the professionals are quick to point out, like, this is not essentially about feeling. This is a fundamental transformation of your consciousness, and it's been going on for millennia, for thousands of years. And it's not something to be sneered at or to look over or to dismiss. You have to address it. And I tried to. My whole thing is trying to gain attention to atheists to look into this stuff, to really explore it. And
I think there is a secular version of this. Once again, I don't want to just give a label to drugs, yay. But there is, in my view, a secular reason for why people could want to experiment or take a psychedelic. I think we need to develop better secular language for how to interpret it. I would just say to that, once again, is Kathy, we want you come on the atheist side and help us develop that language.
It's even becoming mainstream now because cannabis is becoming legal, and although that doesn't have the same type of psychoactive effects, I think I've seen that now they're even studying like low doses of ketamine, which also has some of those type of effects as treatments for mental ailments and such. And like X Music out there posted that he's had stronger experiences with LSD over mushrooms. And that's the thing, is that all our bodies are different and our bodies react to different drugs in different ways. Like, you could take a drug and we all have the same we're both human, but you might get a different side effect than I get because your body's processing the chemicals just a little bit different. That's why we have multiple drugs to treat different. We don't just have one because one doesn't work the same way on everybody. We have a range of drugs that we try to treat ailments with. We don't have just one psychedelic. Some people prefer one over the other. Some get a more mystical experience out of different one, even though most people, from what I've heard, say DMT is by far the most powerful and potent. But, you know, these are unique experiences to the person. And yeah.
And so, Coffee, I think we're going to be wrapping up this section. So if you would like to have a final thought before we send that link back in the chat or wrap up, it's all depending on the I was going to say viewers, but really the people who want to join us out there. But Kathy, final thoughts for the night. We have been, call me skeptical, and we've been asking about divine hide and seek.
I guess I would say that there's often an assumption I think a lot of atheists make that you know, I sometimes ask atheists, do you think your position is concrete or provisional? Meaning, do you think it's the product of, you know, the rational thinking mind, the natural product of reality is, you know, the conclusion that there is no God? You know, do you think it's part of that, or do you think it's provisional in the sense that you could be open to evidence? And, you know, so because if you already think your position is correct, then you're gonna advocate for it. You're gonna be biased towards it, and you know. So I would say, I guess I would ask to you guys. I don't think you have the position of like Matt Dillahunty. He says often that he would like to see religion eradicated from the planet. You know, that you know, that it shouldn't even exist, but that he's not going to try to outlaw it. You know, he wants people to
we wouldn't
come
either.
to the conclusion, come to their natural conclusion that it's wrong. But you see, I think there's an assumption there that you know that the natural conclusion that it is wrong, and I don't think that's necessarily the case. And I don't have any issues with religion. I guess in my perspective, you see, if you constantly see religion as some kind of impediment, then you're not gonna. How are you gonna go throughout your day if you live in a city where there's a religious billboard off every highway? You know, like you're not gonna be annoyed all day, are you? You know, like in my perspective, I acknowledge all religions as truth. I don't have an issue with atheists either. I just see them as people who, I guess, either don't acknowledge. I know Amy says she has an issue with like, what is this God? What is it a mind? You know, I think the reason why theists call it divine is because of its divine attributes. And you mentioned unconditional love. That's one of them. But you know, have you experienced the others? I guess maybe we can get into it another time. I appreciate the time you gave me on the show.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you so very much, Kathy. I'm sure we have many more awesome discussions.
And I would just say that that's one of the reasons that we do this show is to get input, to hear the opposing point of view. And we're not running away. We're not saying, no, don't show us evidence. We want to just believe what we believe. We're asking, hey, bring us the evidence, bring us the logic, tell us why you believe, and we'll evaluate it. And if you've got the goods, if you've got the evidence and the reason, we'll be open to changing our beliefs. So I know I would be, and I think Amy would be too. But
exactly,
that hasn't happened yet.
And all right, it was lovely having you on.
Thanks, Kathy.
Kathy, we're going to transition to possibly our final time of the night. Send in hearts to all our viewers out there. But if pseudonym is out there, or you are a theist,
he wants to come back on,
a believer, whatever you are, come one, come all. Now is the time. I'm going to
all at the same time.
Well, that's right, baby. We'll wait for another, few minutes, and then we'll be heading out here. The link is in chat. I'll be throwing it up on screen. We have been talking
throw it up.
Divine Hide and Seek, and Pseudonym jumped right in. I think he's going to be our last
Ollie
caller
oxen free.
for the night, but I do want to throw up a link because not only is
Have a great night, Pat.
the lovely Randolph Richardson backstage here. He's been chilling with us. You should check out youtube.com/Randolph Richardson.
And Discovering Ancient History,
You should
too.
also go check out,
Yes,
that's right, Do It To Me, Baby. Pat has a brand new video right there, and we are trying to get him to his 100 subscribers so we can get Pat his fancy name. So right there at the link below, Discovering Ancient History with the lovely Pat Lowinger. Go check that out. Sending love, Pat. And we are going to move into our final caller for the night with Pseudonym. Woohoo!
Welcome aboard, Pseudonym.
Welcome aboard. We are calling me skeptical, asking about Divine Hide and Seek. I hope you're good. And what are your thoughts about the subject?
Can you hear me? I'm just kind of doing.
We hear you.
Yes, we can.
Very good, Amy. Thank you for having me on. I am a big fan. I think you are adorable. I've never really been on the show. But as far as the topic of hide and seek, I do kind of like this topic because it just kind of drawn a cool little seance, and I'm gonna make a couple assertions if that's okay, and then with the follow some questions.
Let's get into it.
If that's okay. And
are you a theist?
I am.
You are? Okay. A pantheist, Christian, where?
I guess you could say kind of like a pantheist.
Okay. Pagan, maybe.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
Okay. All right. Just so we know where we stand, but you can go ahead and what did you want to share with us?
So I do like the topic of hide and seek, because if that's an agreed on topic, it is a little interesting in pretty much asking, I guess asking what proponents or what kind of arguments would you have against divine hiddenness, mainly because Amy at one part brought up that what a lot of, I guess, atheists would agree what would be supernatural to be kind of a legitimate reason to believe in God. Like, for example, if the stars moved and said, I am God, that Amy rather believed that it was aliens.
Sure.
Rather than a God. And then
I think
that
she
would
can explain why. But...
Well, can I demonstrate why that's actually obvious? I can demonstrate that to you.
No, that's fine. But that's what I mean. I was going to make some assertions.
Continue. Sure.
But then at the same time, that would be kind of a natural explanation. But then I believe James, that's what your name is, right?
I am
I've
James,
heard this.
Yes.
Yes, I'm sorry. I was just addressing you. That you agree with the previous caller that his experiences of mushrooms was a kind of something that wasn't natural, a non-natural experience. As far as
I wouldn't
what
say that. I would say mystical, the way he perceived it, but I wouldn't say not natural. But
and then I think you followed up that it's kind of more common because the legalization of marijuana is more common. So I'm not too sure if that
psychedelics are becoming more mainstream. Psychoactive drugs, yeah.
Right. So it almost seems like you would have to retract the statement that you said where it's not natural to the previous caller, but at the same time, Amy believes in this thing called consciousness, but Amy takes it as consciousness to be the states of chemical states. Sure. And I'm not sure if that would contradict your reasoning of the non-natural state of being on shrooms. because you can't really say as a chemical state like a rock is about another rock, or thinking that a rock thinks about another rock of where it places itself to be.
I have to go get Grandpa.
Consciousness, I would just say, is an emergent property of what happens in the brain when you get enough neurons and you have all the parts together that it needs. But in one way, it's the exact same thing as a rock, in the sense that all it is particles. It's matter obeying the laws of physics. There's nothing going on in the brain that contravenes the laws of physics. So there's nothing in consciousness that contravenes or that is not part of the natural world, even though it's an emergent property and something we can't necessarily measure, or can't have a jar of consciousness, but it emerges from part of the natural world.
So in the natural world, would you agree that a rock is conscious about another rock, or would you?
No.
Yeah, I don't think that rocks are conscious.
So where would it come that if everything is a chemical state, like a rock would be a chemical state, I guess?
Sure.
Or
not all chemicals are conscious.
And how do you differentiate that?
Consciousness is something that it's a tool that evolution used, because I mean, I think you would agree that plants are alive, right? But they're not conscious, even though we do have people who seem to think that they might be. But from all apparent reasoning, they're not conscious, yet they thrive in the world. So evolution has multiple tools that it could use to help a species, an organism live. Consciousness is one of them. We can go find food, we can find shelter, we can find things that help us live. So in that sense, it's just a tool that evolution used, but it's nowhere required for life.
And I would go a step further, which I don't believe many believers appreciate, that consciousness seems to be the hallmark of being an animal. Even most of life doesn't seem to be conscious. It seems to be that is something that came about during, I call it the multicellular arms race, but when things were starting to become multicellular, we started to develop consciousness.
So relating back to the previous caller, let's say that there are things that are conscious, but in a scientific way, or I think you said in a falsifiable way, James. If there was such a thing as, in the scientific world, something called panpsychism, where everything is made of atoms, why do you still make that differentiation of what is conscious and what is not conscious if reductively everything is made of atoms?
Consciousness is a word. It's something we're defining. So we define consciousness, I guess you could define as awareness of surroundings, and we don't see things demonstrate awareness. We see things react to certain things. Bacteria react. Trees and plants in a limited way can react, but it's more autonomous rather than what we would consider true consciousness, like this cat that just decided to walk on my lap in the middle of a show. He's conscious. The tree outside, even though some of them can move towards sunlight, they're not thinking about that. They're not choosing to do that. It's more of an autonomous reaction.
So then why not a rock if it's made of atoms, just like your cat?
Can I ask you, Pseudonym, what do you think consciousness is?
There you go.
Consciousness? Kind of a sense of self. I believe that cat decides to get on your lap because it has an attraction towards you. It has a sense of self.
Can I stop you right there?
Yeah.
Do you think that a rock has a sense of self?
If I was an atheist, I would have to insinuate that because it's made of atoms, just like a cat.
I disagree. I think that only animals are conscious as an atheist. And so I'm going to ask again, do you think the rock is conscious?
I would have to say that it is conscious.
So it does have a sense of self.
In the sense that it's a non-belief sense.
It's a
So
non-belief.
if you have a mountain and the mountain is conscious, but you take a rock off the mountain, do you have another sense of consciousness? How does that work? How would that even work?
Well, I mean, you drew up earlier that plants, in a way, are conscious, but they're only conscious among other plants. I guess you can say. So a plant.
I don't think either of us think plants.
I don't think they're conscious. Yeah.
Well, I
They react to their environment
earlier.
in certain limited ways, but that's not quite the same thing as awareness. I mean, bacteria react to the environment. They have ways of moving themselves, but they're just reacting to stimuli. They're not deciding. They're not weighing factors and deciding what to do.
Right. But that's like another seance. But going back to like the topic of the hide and seek, what kind of argument would you say you have against a divine hiddenness if you wouldn't believe that stars saying "I am God" is not stars, but it would relate more to aliens, when a lot of atheists would agree that would be the for sure sign.
So my question then to you, pseudonym, you're looking up in the sky and you see the words "There is no God" after the stars have changed. Are you sold?
I'm sold.
You're sold? You'd be an atheist after you saw there is no God in the stars?
Well, I mean, if your explanation would be that there's aliens, and I believe in aliens, but not to say that.
But if you don't know, if you're just looking up and you see it, I would say we exist on this earth, right? Are you willing to? We do exist on the earth, right? You
right,
in a sense. So we had to start somehow, right? So that means the universe is physically capable of spawning life. So it's then pretty reasonable to assume that that could happen on other planets. So we would expect, in fact, most scientists fully expect that there will be alien life out there. That is not a stretch. We don't have great evidence for it yet. We don't have confirmation that there is, but we expect that there probably is. But we don't have any information about any gods out there. So if we see something happening out there that looks like it's intelligence, we would have to conclude it's probably more likely that it's an alien race that evolved much like we did, but on a different world, in a different planet, that is doing something that we can observe here. More likely than a god that we don't have any information about. That's just what I would say.
So let's say, even though you don't have information to even scientifically believe in aliens, how would you differentiate them from an actual god?
It's more plausible because we don't have confirmation, but we expect that there would be, because we exist, right? So life can exist. There are billions and billions of other planets out there. It would stand to reason that on some of those, life could arise similarly to how it arose here.
And I think it's an Occam's razor, is that we don't have evidence of a god or a second form of life, yet we do have evidence of life. And so you can't extrapolate maybe there's a god from there being one form of life, but you can say if life happened, it may be possible that life happened again.
We don't know that for certain, but we expect that it's at least more likely.
There is at least one example of life that we know of happening.
It is possible.
So why would those aliens not be God, at least for us, in a micro scale?
Well, that's just what you're defining as God, right?
I would say that's just calling them God because they're more powerful, though, isn't it?
It's like pantheists calling the universe God.
So that's interesting, because I think Amy said, as far as the topic of divine hiddenness, what if God is natural and we just don't get it yet?
It could be, but I would say we should not believe until there is evidence.
What if he's
But if
the
it
flying
could-
spaghetti monster?
Well, you know what spaghetti is, but
I
if it
guess.
could be, why would it?
Mystical.
And then it's possible. What would make it not possible? Because you don't believe in God.
I don't understand. To me, and my obsession with consciousness, he, she, whoever they are just not highly motivated to exist. Like, there's good reason to why our consciousness needs to keep on doing stuff. All of our other organs are like, please keep on doing what you're doing. We're working our butts off to
Eating, shitting, and fucking.
And so, to me, that many believers, not all, but to me, they are putting the cart before the horse, because they are saying this God has to exist, because how else could we have been created? But in my view, that God is actually contingent on the humans. Without us, there would be no gods. If that makes sense.
It makes sense, but what if that concept of what you think a God should be is completely wrong? And in a sense, it is. Right.
Could be.
But if you think it could be, let's say there's something that there's like an ontological argument that says that even if it could be, that could be possibility will override that possibility that it can't be.
Well, I think most atheists are not. We're not coming on here and saying that we know for a fact there is no God anywhere in the multiverse. No possible way that there could ever be a God. What we're saying is we haven't seen any evidence, no reason to believe that there is one, which is two different things, because we're coming on here and we're saying if you have evidence, if you have a God that you think exists and you think it's rational and logical to believe in this God, and you want to present that case for us, we'll evaluate it and say, hey, if you've got the evidence and it makes sense, be willing to consider that God. But we haven't had that happen yet. So until that happens, the appropriate thing to do is to withhold belief, right? Because we just don't know.
So you'd be an agnostic.
I would say most atheists consider ourselves agnostic atheists.
Technically agnostic atheists, but we atheism, like they'll call it lacktheism. The Christians will kind of slander it, say you just lack a belief in God, but that's essentially what it is we don't have a belief. It's not an affirmative case that there could not be a God somewhere, anywhere, at any time or place. Just we don't believe in one. You know?
And I call myself a medium atheist. There's the soft atheist and the hard atheist, because I think you could just defend the atheistic belief on there not being evidence for a God. But because of my obsession with consciousness, I really have a hard time wrapping my head around the concept. The longer I go into this, it's just the harder it is for me to wrap my mind around it, which is not normally what happens with more information. Continue.
No, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Amy.
This has been the theme of the night. Is there something specific, like a moment that is like two paths traveled that you had, that this is what made you a theist? Is there an aha moment? Or
he mentioned seances. Does that have something to do with it?
In a way, because I think we're all stuck on this. Like you said, you're not an atheist because you're not 100% sure that there is.
We are atheists because we don't believe in a God, but we are agnostic atheists because we're open to the possibility that it could be. So I use the title atheist because I don't hold a belief, but I do realize there are some who think that's not a totally appropriate term. But to them, I say, to quote Alex Stein, that's like trying to circumcise an ant. But
So the aha moment would be that you're not stuck in a chemical state. You're stuck in a kind of a metaphysical state.
I don't know what metaphysical is, but
It
I
means that
don't
you're
think it is real. But
you're stuck.
So
I'm
was it a no? I wanna really go in on this. So was it a well? First of all, were you ever a non-believer?
No. I started off as a Catholic, then I went to Christianity, and then I let that go.
what convinced you that Christianity wasn't true, if I could ask?
Pretty much the same arguments that you're making, or you guys make on the
Okay.
channel.
Doesn't make sense. No evidence for it. Okay.
Yeah, but it's interesting how the whole channel proponent, and I guess you have Ronald on the background, and you have
Randolph?
somebody else. Yeah, I'm sorry,
Randolph, yeah.
but I think their whole proponent or their whole reason of argument is against the Christians, and I think just based on living in a certain demography is that Christianity is false, and I would agree with that, but it doesn't make me a non-theist. But I can still make those same arguments like an atheist does, but it doesn't necessarily mean, like you said, that it's not impossible that God doesn't exist.
After Christianity, what happened then? Where'd you go after that, if I could?
It would be like bubblegum gum. It would be into like that supernatural aspect of like ghosts. But as he mentioned, that like a ghost wouldn't necessarily be supernatural. It would still be confined to, like you said, this
Natural world.
falsifiable. Right. It would be falsifiable as far as like measurements or instruments being used. Then you would go on to your other talker would be like that four squared universe of transcendentalism, transcendence, where you're stuck with a god or a god concept, which is the Christian god of being transcendental and being outside of time, which obviously can't seem to happen because being outside of time, which means that your conscience without being in time. So that's why the interesting question would be, what if God is natural
Shout
and
out
you
to
just
Nick.
don't understand it yet?
Well,
And
I
Amy
will
said,
say, and we're going to go for about 10 more minutes, and then we are wrapping it up for the night. It has been a fun journey. And I will say, in my view, you could probably prove or give empirical evidence to my satisfaction that a God was real. I would be convinced, A, that God was natural, because I really don't. To me, I've said this before, supernatural is a politically correct word. They fit whatever they want in it. You know, it could be above, below. It's 2 scoops of natural. So in my view, if he, she, they created the natural world, they should be able to interact in it. And then number 2, I would want to know what exactly this God is like, because just because I believe that they're real doesn't mean that I'm going to be on their side. So did they decide that they were going to kill gays and all this other stuff? Because if so, I think I'm Team Satan. So it all depends. A lot of context on what that God is, you know, his bio, so to speak.
right, that's an interesting reason you say that, because at the same time you have this conscious reaction that you believe in evil to not believe in God, but this concept of evil would still have to exist as a mental state, not really kind of a chemical state. So you would have to kind of explain how a chemical state from a natural perspective defines evil.
Mental state from a natural.
Or a
Does good
conscience.
have to do the same thing, or just evil?
Good would also have to do it, but evil is usually the main proponent, because one of the arguments against God would be evil. So that's why I kind of picked that one.
See, and that's why I don't have a problem with the problem of evil at all. Because I view most of the gods as evil, I have no problem with Like if Yahweh was real, I would view him as an evil god. He could, I would accept it that he was real. I would try to figure out a reality in which I could either exist or take him down. I don't know what the exact word would be because they never really go over that. But I will say, if you read the Bible, he gets messed up a lot.
No,
His plans always get fucked up.
I definitely agree with you, Amy. But from, I guess, as a question, you would have to kind of explain how chemical states explain evil to begin with to kind of go argue against God.
I would say that chemical states aren't really what are giving it good or evil. In my view, morality has a basis in biology. And so the biology of an organism is always going to be how the rules of the game are played. And I'll give you a good example for this to make it tangible. It is immoral to cut someone's head off for funsies. Let's take a scenario in which our heads just grow back. Okay, we have like a lizard ability where the head just grows after you cut it off. Is it just as immoral to cut that person's head off if it's just going to pop up? It may be if it hurts them, maybe there's pain involved. But really, what is good and what is evil is going to be based on the biological organisms playing the game that we call life. If that makes sense.
It makes sense, but I think it's a little kind of contradictory as far as like a naturalism perspective, because you really can't say that against animals, and you really can't say that against like meat eating products, because essentially you would be doing the same thing as far as like
I would actually say you can
products.
make that statement. I would say I have almost a little bit of cognitive dissonance when it comes to eating meat, and I should probably say that out loud, in that we probably should be valuing human life. Whether we can adjust to that, I love bacon. And yet I know that the pig is a smart animal that could beat my ass in some video games. I mean, that is craziness in and of itself. And so it's kind of a measured thing. I think 1,000 years, they will look down on us for that. I think that, and it won't even be because of like some magical, like it won't be because everyone just suddenly become vegetarian. I actually think it's going to be a capitalist thing. I actually going to think that it's going to be that meat is going to like, real meat or whatever you're going to call it one day is going to be much harder to produce, and then lab grown meat is going to be much easier, and you're just going to see signs that say made with mostly real meat, and that will be the future. And so we'll just become, I don't know if you want to call it vegetarians or leaning towards not eating conscious creatures, because I think that that's where our morality is going to lean to. Overall, it's not going to happen overnight because we like bacon.
Oh no, I completely agree with you. People love bacon, but that was the whole gist of morality and cutting people's heads off for conscious things and natural things, or another lion or a crocodile is going to cut a baby hippo's head off and still say that that's not immoral.
Well,
from a natural perspective, even though we take on a different perspective.
We do have to understand where we are in the cycle of life, that it isn't evil for the lion to eat the antelope because that is what they do. I would say we have an increased responsibility because I have a whole model on thinking, which goes through the brain into consciousness, into my final, which is introspection, which only a few animals do, but a handful: chimpanzees, elephants, dolphins, ourselves. I think the introspective animals, the ones that are starting to gain metadata and starting to know what's happening, I think they should have an increased responsibility. You can't blame that on a slug or something that is conscious, but maybe not thinking about how their day is going.
So would you say that like a dog or a cat, even though humans have the same biological makings, would you say there is a difference between being an animal and being a human?
I do in that in my model they are sentient, which is their conscience, so they're receiving information. They are sentient, which my definition of sentient, likely we did at the same time, is emotions and memory. It's a combination of those two specific categories, because from emotions and memory we can pass the Pavlov's dog test, which allows you to get out of a maze. It allows you to go, not only am I conscious, but I actually, yeah, he's asking basically my view of the difference between a dog and a human. And so I think both dogs and humans are sentient. I know, baby. Are both sentient creatures. We're both taking in information. We're both having an emotion attached to that memory. So we made it through the maze. I got a piece of cheese. It was good. I should do that again. Or I couldn't make it through the maze. This was frustrating. I need to figure something else out. I think that they are borderline introspection. And so, if it's a scale on 1 to 5, a dog and a cat may be a 4.5. They may be somewhere in between a 4 and a 5.
Russian doll consciousness, nested hierarchy.
And in my view, if my model is good, it should be able to make predictions. You should be able to look at an animal and say exactly where they fit in and why. And I think I can make a good argument to why a cat or a dog would be a 4 to 5. They would be sentient, breaking on the border. The test for introspection, in my view, would be the mirror test. As soon as you can pass the mirror test, I think you are at a 5. And so we have to have more episodes on consciousness, and we could probably keep on going back and forth. But instead, I'm just going to thank you, Pseudonym,
back and forth,
and
Newman.
Ask you, what are your final thoughts? We have been calling me skeptical tonight on divine hide and seek, rather the topic of divine hiddenness. I hope you had a fun time. And what is your final thought?
I had a great time. Thank you, Amy, for having me on. Again, you're adorable. I do like your personality.
Thank you.
But yes, it is quite the conundrum in this divine hiddenness. Even though it is, we agree. It is the concept of divine hiddenness, while still agreeing that it is possible that God might exist in this hiddenness or this hide and seek. At the same time, while saying that there is no God is quite the plethora of concepts to wash through, and I'm not too sure if I can maybe join in the future and we can have conversations about consciousness.
Absolutely.
But I do appreciate
Come
you
back anytime.
For at least enticing.
You are a pleasure to talk to, Pseudonym.
Absolutely.
Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you.
And all right, guys, we're wrapping up and moving into, there's only 2 outros.
That's it.
Having fun. Woohoo! We've been having fun, James. Calling me skeptical.
Got a Discord comment out there. From
that's Twitch.
LSAT
Sending love to our Twitch stream.
Twitch. Yes, glad you guys like it. Yeah, great conversation, great show, great ability to dive deep into the topics. Let Amy really, really break out those fist fruits that she loves so much.
That's right. And all right. Yeah, you got to get those fist fruits. They're what keep you nice and loose. Anyway, I hope you all
where's
had
that
a
grapefruit?
fun time. Grapefruits. On this episode of Call Me
Thanks, Ian.
Skeptical. Thanks, Ian. Divine
Mark Reed, Materialist Dan,
hide
Apricot
and
Sloth,
seek. That's right, baby. Sending love to everybody out there.
Doorknob
And we-
Head, X
and we-
Music. Yeah. Continue.
The whole crew. And so we hope you had a fun time on this episode of Call Me Skeptical Divine Hide and Seek, where we looked for some divine hiddenness and put the deity question in the hot seat. I want to thank my co-host, James W.,
You're welcome.
along with our guest tonight, Bubbles, Pat Lowinger, Randolph Richardson, Kathy, and Pseudonym, along with our awesome mods who make this stream so great, the people in chat. And it was an awesome chat going on tonight. And all
Till
our
5 a.m.
lovely
Eastern
viewers.
almost.
I know. Woohoo! And all of our lovely viewers who even make this channel
guys are great.
possible. If you enjoyed the show, feel free to like, follow, or subscribe. Thank you guys so very much. And then hit that bell icon so that you can join us on our live streams. After the show, we will be heading over to the Skeptic and Ranting Discord server, the link of which
Meme in
is in the
action.
description below. That's right. Get your memes on. Yeah,
Internet memes.
Internet memes. So come join us for some more fun. A funny thing, I actually
Kathy.
Thanked Gilbert for that, and I was like, I just want you to know that you are one of the top comedians of the world. And he waited a few days, but then he said thank you. That's how I know he saw it.
Oh.
Woohoo!
Thanks,
The
Kathy.
internet memes.
Internet memes.
Lastly, if you would like to help us make even more fun content, we offer some unique community perks for our supporters.
Send Amy a fruit
at
basket if you want.
Patreon. That's right, baby. Is that where they hang out nowadays? Oh, it doesn't matter to me.
Fruit basket for Amy.
At patreon.com/Amy Newman.
Send the Discord
I am
link
Amy
into Twitch.
Newman. Woo-hoo! That's right. I'll send it into Twitch because I know it is in the YouTubes. But I want to have our lovely Twitch friends have it as well. There you go. Now you have it on Facebook too. Now everybody has it.
I think
There
Ian
you
already had
go.
it, but there you go.
That's right. Ian is basically our
Facebook
Facebook
warrior.
our Facebook warrior, cheerleader. He's the whole crew, the Skeptic crew out on
We gotta
Facebook.
fight Zuckerberg.
Though we post internet memes, especially non-believer memes, on our Skeptic and Ranting Facebook page, so feel free to join. But, ladies and gentlemen, I am Amy Newman.
Thanks, guys.
And we will see you all on the next episode of Skeptic Ball Z. Mwah.
Good night, guys.